Hello and welcome, ladies and gents. How are you all doing? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to 2.5 Talent. It's been a hot minute. It's been a long time since we've done one of these. So thank you very much for coming back and joining us. Of course, we've brought a guest along with us for this very special episode. Man, I say, Skriv, brother, how are you doing? Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day and joining us.
Yeah, I'm very well. I'm very well, as we've just been talking about. I'm focusing on my fitness and all that sort of stuff. So I'm feeling good, eating better, losing weight. So we're enjoying life. We're enjoying life, and a brand new game for all of us to enjoy as well. Yeah, and I guess are we like 4 talent? I reckon I'm like 3 of Trav. You know,
Like as is.
I bet you were saving that one to say.
I was.
You were saving that for this moment.
Yeah. When Neo asked me like coming on, I was like, I gotta get myself in with a little quip. You know?
We love it. Let's start with the introductions of what we've been doing since the last episode. Of course, Skriv, it's your first episode, so we'll say roughly the last. It was a month and a half, probably month and a half, roughly. So
that's been a while.
Yeah. Skriv, what have you been up to? Last month and a half. What's been on the dock? What have you been working on? What have you been going on in life? Ooh. Obviously, you mentioned your fitness as well. Generally, what's been going on for the last about a month and a half?
A little bit of music as well, I suppose. Learning the guitar myself, you know, teaching myself and everything. So there's a little bit of that. Picked up a little part-time to keep me busy, learning to edit. I'm hoping. I've also been a bit quiet on the content recently, so I've got a few ideas up here that I can't really get out without the skills, and I don't know about paying for an editor as well. It'd probably just conflate the issue a little bit. So yeah, been working on a few extracurricular things behind the scenes, but of course plenty of casting going on as well. Been relatively busy in that sense, so very, very happy about that. And yeah, we did Insomnia and stuff, which was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Getting out into the semi arena, you know, it's my arena at least. Getting out of the bedroom is the big thing. But yeah, really just enjoying myself at the minute. So yeah, I'm doing very well, and life's been good, and I've got plenty going on, you know.
We can't complain. Trav, what have you been up to, brother?
I've been immersing myself in all the CS2 content, as many matches as possible. Of course, we all have just been doing the Young Shipping qualifiers. Just watching that, the first ever CS2 Open qualifier, was a great opportunity to hop on with that. People are obviously fascinated to see how MR12 is going to go, how all these opening matches are going to pan out. Away from CS, I've been trying to get back into tennis as well, which is good. My local park resurfaced the courts recently. They're absolute like shitholes, like about 6 months ago. And they resurfaced the courts, and they were running a free community lesson session you can just drop into like every Monday. So I've just been going on every Monday for an hour, and there's like 3 other people there, including the coach, including the person running it. And I used to play tennis all the time from like age 4 every week till like age 23, and then COVID hit, and then all like leisure centers shut down and stuff. So yeah, finally getting back into it, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I'm gonna try and keep that up to keep my cardio up as well, which is important.
Paladin, what have you been up to, brother? What's the last month brought for you?
Well, I finished out the Thunderpick quals, which were fun. I really did enjoy casting a lot more frequently. I do like that whole initiative, and the North American series was super awesome to just see so many more North American teams like just take part in a tournament, because I feel like we're really struggling in that front. So having just that competition was really nice. What else? We watched the on-shipping quals. That was really fun. I've just been playing a ton of CS2, man. Like I've been playing a ridiculous amount. Because the thing is I am a chronic demo watcher, and I can't watch demos right now. So there's literally only one thing that I can do, and that is play the game. So I've just been playing a ton alongside Exner and the boys, as we usually do. Exner and Darth Mike, we all pug pretty frequently. So yeah, it's been really fun. I think the game has definitely improved since the beta. There's still a lot of improvements that need to be done. We'll definitely touch on all of that in this episode, I'm sure. But so far, I am liking the fact that we've had so many improvements this fast, at the very least.
I agree. And I'll finish off my side. I mean, for me, same as kind of Skriv. I mean, we kind of basically do every gig together, more or less, anyway. So yeah, a lot of work we've been doing. Did a bit of Thunderpick ourselves. We did obviously in person Insomnia, which is good fun. I did 2 extra days doing Valorant for that as well, which is pretty cool. Just like a 4-day LAN gig in the UK. Pretty rare. They're pretty rare these days. So just having local lands is pretty cool. It's like the UK equivalent of like Fragadelphia, essentially.
December.
Yeah,
Gotta
yeah.
wait for a little bit longer.
Yeah,
looking
but
forward to
that was fun. What else have I been doing? Been doing a bit of Impact, actually. Been doing quite a bit of Impact. It's been also quite fun. Impact, actually, as of today, which is the 4th, so Wednesday, is just gone to CS2 today. So that'll be quite interesting to see how that runs, because obviously servers are apparently a bit of a mess to kind of set up and stuff. So I wonder how things go that side. And then, yeah, probably since then, the only other thing, probably the big one was ISF. I think it was probably, I'm pretty sure the episode we did before this was before ISF. No, it must have been. I don't think I've spoken about it. But yeah,
I think so, yeah.
2 weeks in Romania, casting alongside Anders. That was pretty cool. It was really good fun. It was a wacky event in the way it was like an outdoor event, first of all, which is like always not the easiest thing ever to set up. When we got there for the first like 5 days, it was like 38, 39 degrees. So it was like so warm, and to the point where like equipment was like melting in the sun. So that was quite interesting. And then we had the other side where for like 4 or 5 days it was like torrential rain, and like it was like a storm, like an actual storm. They were giving like storm warnings, like don't go outside. And it was like, dude, I'm casting outside. Like, what do you mean? Like, don't go outside. And we were casting like in a tent. So like you heard and you felt everything. But it was sick. Like the event itself was really cool. On like the weekends, we would have like upwards of like 8,000 to 9,000 people, apparently, is what they were saying. Like in and around like the lawn, because it was in front of like their royal palace, like the equivalent of like Buckingham Palace for us, I guess. Massive giant lawn, thousands of people out there. Did my first ever like make some noise. You can like you can like feel the vibrations, which was like insane, like people screaming. It's like
Sick.
that was like goosebumps. When I did it, I was like all giggly. I was like a child. That was sick. That was really good. And then the final was actually a really good game in the end. It was Germany, with essentially big academy plus QB against Sweden, which was like half godsend, half Met support. And Sweden like just swept the whole tournament. They didn't drop a map, and they were really, really good. Adam B is like incredible. Like, he was so good at that tournament. Bob XD looked really, really good as well. Plopsky just still consistent as ever, like just so reliable. I think the only one actually really struggled on that Sweden team was Jacquinho. He just never really got going that much, especially on the playoff games. But yeah, it was fun. It was really good fun. I had a really good time in Romania. It's a super nice country as well. So if those who haven't visited and were tempted, I'd recommend it. It was really cool. I'd definitely go back. We were in a city called Iași, IASI, on the border to Moldova, I'm pretty sure, and it's a cool country. Apparently Bucharest is really cool as well, and all of those like continental European cities. So I got a lot of recommendations of where to go after Iași. But Romania's cool. I recommend it. That was fun. That was cool, like a two week gig, and had a pool and a hot tub on the days I wasn't working, so I can't complain. But yeah, let's get straight into the action. We can kickstart things talking about Pro League. I think it's probably the best way to go about it. So we'll kickstart with the Pro League. Pro League now concluded. Mals walk away with the lion's share of 850 grand, 200k in their pockets, taking down Navi in a bit of a sweep in the final. Lads, thoughts? How do you think that one went in the end? I mean, obviously, I think for me, Mals was a surprise to see win. Granted, they're being good, but I didn't expect them to go all the way.
I mean, I think it's oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, the event felt like kind of at a weird time, I think, for some of the teams, right? There's obviously a few moves that we've seen in the days since that maybe explain some of the performances of, like, a Heroic or a Vitality, that they maybe knew that this was the last look for where they're at. Also felt pretty sure, at least halfway through the event, that it was going to be the last CSGO event, right? Mm-hmm. At least, yeah, in a big capacity. Yeah. So a little bit of weirdness, I suppose, in that sense. Yeah, a few teams like maybe G2 you expect to do a little bit better. FaZe have got some pretty serious issues going into CS2, but they've said that they're not really all that motivated at the moment. Maybe the new game will do that. Liquid's another one that you maybe expected to be a bit higher, but then Rainwaker move recently, you know, so there's all this kind of strangeness going on. Cloud9 was a big one that stuck out, I think. But in terms of where the final was at, where Miles' performance was at, I actually really, really, really solid from Mouse. I hope that we see more of this from them, right? And immediately sort of made this tweet as well. Immediately we're seeing the IGL changes just pay absolute dividends.
Huge,
I think that the way Dexter was running the team was just not effective enough, maybe a bit too loose for this team, right? And the sort of remarriage of Torji, Zershan, Cyclone, of course, Shuhei has just looked fantastic for me. I think there's a little bit more of a game plan going in there, and as very young players, and also alongside Frozen and Yimfat, right? They're all very young. I think they need more direction. They're maybe not players that do very well with work around me and let's play with a bit more freedom. And I think that that has very, very quickly come to the forefront after this event. But yeah, a fantastic tournament from them, and obviously a really great final, winning it in 3. And what they dropped a total of like 3 maps across the course of the entire thing. So really, really effective. And it was ultimately, you know, Yimfat who came out not necessarily of nowhere, especially for guys like us, but really turned a few heads. And I definitely didn't expect him to perform that well this quickly. So going into CS2, they actually looked like a really scary team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go next. I
Go ahead.
completely agree. Right, is Mouse is just unstoppable, and I decided to do a video on Torji before they made it, or before the playoffs began, because I was very confused as to how high his rating was, and then the eye test never really checked out, and so I felt as though things were pretty deceptive by his actual performance, and I was kind of let down by him, considering that the rifle core was so good. Frozen does so much for this team. I mean, so does Zershan, and so does Yimfat, and they had such a huge amount of impact throughout the group stage that I was worried that without having an elite AWP going into the playoffs, that they wouldn't be able to hang around. But he stepped up massively in terms of the actual individual impact throughout all the group stage. And you're going against some of the best operators in the world. You went against Brokey, you went against Monacy, Sun Pius, and Simple, right? I mean, if you want to talk about clearing some of the best operators in the game, that's a pretty stacked list right there. And the fact that he was still able to outduel them across the board on both halves of the map, I was really impressed. I was happy to be proven wrong. So I think I think that same story applies to literally every player, where they all just pulled their weight so well. You look at Yimfat anchoring, guaranteed 2 kills every round on CT side. Frozen and Zershan basically getting openings out of nowhere on that T side. Guaranteed Frozen on that rotator position. Retakes look so much more doable. I mean, Shuhei as well, fragging from the front as well. You didn't add in the fact that he's mid-rounding like just so well. Like every little piece that this Mouse operation was set out to kind of accomplish came out swinging, and it just looked so clean. Like it looked like everybody understood their role to a T. And I think the biggest thing for me is that just Yimfat looks so much more comfortable now, more than anything, and that I think bodes very well for the future, because that was the only worrying sign at Cologne. I think at Cologne he was pretty much a non-factor, and that's kind of what cost them at the end of the day, and that's why they couldn't qualify for the playoffs. But throughout the group stage, you could see he was starting to warm up, and then he just went red hot throughout the playoffs. So I think credit to him, especially in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what's really cool is that he took that one event to warm up, right? Like I think there was an interview with Frozen, right, talking about him, saying like, yeah, he had nerves first, then the Finnish blood kicked in, right, where he was just completely unfazed by everything. I think their Mirage is something that I picked up on a tweet as well myself the other day. With Dexter and JDC, their Mirage of the first half of the year, they were losing to NIP, Gamer Legion, easily to Heroic, like 16-6, Ent 16-9, Apex 16-12 in the Elisa Invitational. I know it's online, but still. Dallas, they lost to Ents comfortably and Heroic comfortably too. And you fast forward to the Shuri and the Impact era, and you lose your first to Vitality in Cologne, as you say, Paladin, a bit shaky to begin with. Then you sweep Thunderpick to qualify for the main event. 500 in Eternal Fire and Big. 9 rounds, 2 rounds, 7 rounds lost. You lose to MRBRM Pro League, and then you go Heroic 16-8, Furious 16-4, FaZe 16-10, G2 16-13, Ent 16-13. What a bloody run that is. Like, that is just ridiculous. And that's just indicative of their whole run entirely. But when they lose to MIBR in the first game of the entire event, you think, oh no, they're not ready yet. Shuey doesn't know what he's doing yet. And then suddenly 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-1, 3-0.
Yeah.
incredible, and I think they fully deserve it. And I can't wait to see how they do in CS2 in Sydney.
Yeah, and I think
And
as well with
they're
other
doing-
tournaments. Well, I was just saying, like, just generally, like, you know, we've had these like kind of like quote unquote Mickey Mouse runs, like where people like will look at like Vitality at Blast, for example, and be like, well, you know, the competition wasn't exactly like incredible for them. Their bracket was really good. And then you just look at Mausers, dude. Like, especially those last 4 games, they're insane. FaZe, G2, ENT, and Na'Vi. Especially ENT is the big one for me. Like, with how well ENT's been playing, they've been in every final for like the last like 6 tournaments or something. And they've taken them down 2-1. They've knocked out in the semis. Like, that run, there's just no question marks about it. It's so legit. Like, this side's sick. You know, Shuhi's completely, like, revitalized this team. Torzy looks like a completely new man again. He looks like back on Mars NXT Torzy. He just looks confident. He looks happy in what he's playing. And, you know, maybe now, I say us. I'm not going to say us in this. But, I like, you know, Dexter haters can sit here with, like, a massive grin and be like, yeah, I fucking told you. Like, because, like, honestly, he's now 2 for 2. Ruined Acor, now ruined Torzy. The second, you know, Shuhei is the one leading both of them. They both have arguably the peaks of their careers. Acor at the major peak of his career, I'd probably say, like, at least in the last few years. And Torzy, this is the best he's played in Tier 1, basically, kind of this tournament. Walks through the MVP as well. So, you know, he looks like a completely new player. Kind of what you were talking about, Paladin, kind of being proven wrong. But I guess also the people who were saying, is Dexter the issue, being proven right? Because maybe he is. Because you look over on the other side, Fnatic looked fucking awful. Like, it just looked terrible. Like, nothing really to like on that team, basically, at all. Obviously, maybe not as strong as an Orpa generally, and there are definitely question marks about Afro there. But, yeah, I think Maus have really proven that coming into a CS2, they have to be one of the teams you look at, just because of how young they are as well, which is so scary. You know there's going to be a side they're going to put in the hours. You know they're going to be a side as well who are going to adapt, especially when you got mechanical gods like Yimfat, right, who is just so talented, like the raw talent plus good leadership. I don't know. I'm really excited to see what if, I'm hoping basically that Maus can continue this. I can continue like looking forward into CS2 with, I don't know, like a lot to like, because right now that was a very, very solid run against such a variety of opponents, and they all looked really clean.
Yeah,
They're doing it off the T sides as well, right? I mean, Xertion and Frozen are getting these insane entries, and they're just so fearless that this team plays with this pack mentality that they can win any duel. I mean, you see how they take mid on Mirage, and they just fly out. I mean, they're just flying out trying to take raw aim duels against some of the best players in the world. And that going into CS2, we haven't really spoken about it too much, but the Pika's advantage in that game is absolutely insane. So if they already have this kind of confidence going into that game, and then add that whole Pika's advantage into that whole conversation, this team just gets very scary very, very fast. That just makes me super excited for their trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. One run I also want to give credit to is Monty. Monty actually, fair play to them. Their run wasn't as like, you know, as commendable maybe in the likes of kind of, you know, even like a Maus or an Ent or whatever. But like, honestly, like that game against Vitality, like, fair play. Like, they just completely caught that side off guard. I think I had a lot of question marks about Bro when he got brought into that team. But he looked all right, just generally. Like, I think he is now starting to slowly adapt to Tier 1. I think obviously losing Boros is always going to be huge for Monty, just because raw firepower-wise, it's such a big loss. Like, it's kind of, there really isn't any other players like Boros. Even like someone like Cypher doesn't play the same type of roles where it's like so dedicated. It's like, you got one job, is like get a kill in the first 15 seconds, right? That's your job, like if you're Boros. And for Monty, losing someone like that was pretty big. But their team seems to have rebuilt quite well, and they seem to look okay now. Warrior's playing quite well, he's calling quite well as well. I credit that win over Vitality. I don't really take too much credit away from the Fnatic one, because I just don't really care about the team all that much. Same for Complexity, but the Vitality one is pretty legit. Granted, Na'Vi put him to bed pretty quickly there. But yeah, I think Monty, it's also kind of good compared to, if you look at all the other teams that were in and around the top 8 at the major, when you look at kind of like Apex, for example, or Gamer Legion, obviously Into the Breach, but, you know, rest in peace to the boys. They're the only team who's actually consistently stuck around now, in terms of making, you know, continuing to be in and around playoffs. Gamer Legion grouped immediately, looked shit. Apex have a lot of teething issues, and of course now we've seen why, which we'll come to in a little bit of time. We're kind of focus on that a little bit later, and obviously Into the Breach is just a fucking mess. So yeah, credit Monty have actually continued to stay relevant, where like the other teams are actually now dropping off and are no longer considered really a tier 1 team in my eyes anymore. They're now dropping back into kind of that tier 1.5, tier 2 bracket with this solely. Well, I mean, ITB are well into the tier 2 bracket. They're ranked like 74th in the world now, so they're out of there. But like, yeah. Like Monty, I've continued to be, actually a team who can play in tier 1, which I think is also a big thing. It wasn't just a one-off, wasn't a flash in the pan.
You've highlighted Monty. I want to highlight Eternal Fire very quickly because I thought Eternal Fire would not work anymore without xCloud. I've always been an xCloud fan, and I think wherever he goes, I think actually will probably be a pretty decent team. I think he deserves another shot. I thought Eternal Fire would get worse without xCloud, and they brought in Wicadia, and he's turned out to be, one, an incredible aim star, and two, really calm under pressure as well. Excuse my phone alarming. I'll have to turn that off right now. But yeah, I'm really impressed with them. To 2-0, Cloud9, Liquid, Astralis, and Big, 4 BO3s in a row. That is the best run that I think any Xantares team has had really since the Big era, when they were sort of farming online during COVID. So I think Xantares he's not, I'm not going to say that he's, up there with the top of the world in terms of all time. But I think in terms of, non-achievements, as I mentioned the other day, I think if you don't look at achievements and you don't look at maybe what could have been and just look at pure skill, I think Xantares is probably one of the most consistent riflers we've had in Counter-Strike ever since 2016, probably. Yeah. And now he's still performing at a really good level alongside Wicadia. If in future events they can keep that up, which was, like Paladin said, actually, like with Mouse, actually a very brawly style in general. That if you want to talk about a brawly style, that was what Eternal Fire brought to the table. They were just farming on Vertigo, just kind of doing almost what Cypher did at the Major, like with Into the Breach, right? Just farming on ramp, winning the aim duels all the time. And it wasn't just the brawly rounds they were winning. They were winning the rounds which were hard to win as well, like the tough 2v2s. Major, I think, was calling really, really well. And I'm really, honestly, hopeful for the future of that team going to CS2. Because they can master that brawly style we spoke about. They could only get better, I think.
Yeah.
You did it without Woxic having to pop off. That's the craziest part. Woxic is still on this team, and he can still just let loose at any point in time. And if that happens, then you have a very dangerous trio in Xantares, Wicadia, and Woxic, right? But and it's not even like he's doing average. Like, he's playing poorly for this team. So at any point, if he just increases his level like 10, 15%, this team is very scary. I will say, I don't even think it's very complex CS by Eternal Fire. That's the craziest part. It is very simple, like death ball T sides. They don't even play with lurkers. There's no 4-1. There's no like 3-2. It's like 5 players up one part of the map, and we are going to take it together, and we are just going to kill everybody. And I haven't seen that kind of simplistic style in a team in a long time, and I'm glad that we have a team to kind of skill check a lot of rosters. Because that felt like Astralis and Big, they just couldn't win gunfights. Like, they knew what was happening every single round, but they just couldn't do anything because they would just die. So I think having a skill check org within top CS is super important. Yeah. I think gatekeeping teams is what we need. We don't really have that kind of a roster right now beyond like Virtus Pro in terms of patience. I think Eternal Fire will be that gatekeeping team in terms of aim, which would be really fun.
In CS2, it's huge as well, right? I mean, these guys, they play a play style that fundamentally should give them a lot of success going towards CS2 just because of how aggressive it is. I mean, at the same time, when we look at kind of individual players, you kind of mentioned about kind of Cypher Into the Breach, that style of play with how CS2 is right now, so peak is heavy, they should be at such a big advantage, at least in the early stages of the game, until... I say until it gets fixed, is more if it gets fixed, right? Because we know Valve can be quite stubborn with these things. So yeah, I think actually it's quite interesting in the sense that where things are right now, that Eternal Fire team, if they can bounce off this and like continue that level of confidence, that could be huge for them going in towards CS2. And I really like to see what they're like in like an open qual. I don't know if they were playing Yonkoping quals. I'm really not too sure.
They're invited to the main event.
Oh, they are? Okay, well there we go. So they don't need to play the calls. Yeah, but I'm really interested to see what they're like, just because their style of play just feels like it lends hand in hand to CS2, and also probably because Roxy's playing badly. Like he's not a factor on this team at the moment. And AWPing is so difficult on CS2 as it is already. Like that it's not a biggest thing. Like I feel like when you look towards some teams, for example, if they don't have their AWPer, they're fucked. They just cannot do anything. And CS2 AWPing's so difficult because you can't post up anymore. Like I'm really interested to see what Astrala's going to look like in CS2 because a lot of it is relying to kind of device style AWPing. I feel like he could not get exposed because obviously we know what his ability's like, but it's going to be a big adjustment for him in terms of his style of AWPing. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case for Eternal Fire. They're not reliant on someone like Woxic at the moment. Obviously, it's good to have him in the backlines. If he does find his form, that's even better. But they're not a team that we look towards them and say like, well, they don't, for example, Na'Vi, right? If Simple doesn't play well with the AWP, you do get a little bit worried about this team falling off and going into a CS2. There's question marks there. I've seen a lot of people have conversations about that. I've even seen people have conversations about Ensign and Pius, right, going into a CS2 just because of how difficult AWPing is. But Eternal Fire don't really have that problem, which I think is fundamentally quite a good thing. So I'm interested to see what they're like going in. I think Yongbing's going to be interesting as like a litmus test because that's like the upper echelon of tier 2, the lower end of tier 1. I don't know who else is invited. I didn't even see the post.
Monty and VP.
VP, yeah.
Also very
as
good
always.
Test. Yeah, VP. Yeah, VP always there. Very good testing teams though as well, right? Monty are a side who continues to be consistent within tier 1. And of course, that player from all to the semis, I think, is pretty commendable. And then VP have always been, they go to Challenger Leagues, they win them, like as we saw when we did it together, Skriv and Kato, beat Movistar. Oh no, Movistar, wait, I can't remember. No, VP won it, right, in the end. Yeah. VP won it, because that was their qualification spot.
And yeah, they beat N side in the final.
Yes, yeah. And that's always been the kind of the test, right? Is like, can you take a team like VP down? Because they've always been happy to play these online tournaments. They're more than happy to play like a CCT finals, for example. They beat Spirit not too long ago. Donk's lot. It completely exposed Donk for having a very faulty play style. As much as everyone wants to like love this guy up, he just is not ready in remotely for tier 1. Like mechanically he is. He's so easy to expose. And James has done it multiple times now. So like, people gonna keep bigging him up until they realize that Art Frost is what makes that team tick over. They've got the wrong idea. I'm dying on that hill. Donk mechanically is all there. He's just not mentally. He got exposed so many times. But yeah, I think VP is a very good test. So that's actually gonna be quite a cool event. Completely sidetracked there, but yeah, I think generally it's a good position for Eternal Fire to be in, especially because they've gone through, what was it, like 13 changes in like 2 months.
Yeah. I got to say quickly as well, like just literally a 10-second point. Calyx was playing really, really well as well.
Yeah,
like, filling that void.
Yeah, he has all of a sudden.
Yeah, that Woxic has been falling in. Like Calyx is was looking as crisp as Wicadia and Xantaras, which was just really impressive.
I want
to ask Skriv. I want to ask you about Navi actually, because I remember you tweeted something about Alexi B. Was it a little while ago? Something, I don't know what you said. But I've completely forgotten, which is why I wanted to ask you, because they made the finals.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Alexi B. I think he's had a number of.
That's what I read, Joe.
Yeah, a number of rosters that have obviously gone a bit south, but it's interesting. It is interesting, I think, with the Na'Vi team because you already have a few pieces in there that are perhaps used to the blade system, of course, and whatnot. But there's also some fresh ones, and I think that you can't really bring in a new IGL and these new rifles that are also not really that familiar with tier 1 and just implement your old system. So I think maybe for the first time in a while, Alexi B has had the chance, perhaps alongside Blade, you would imagine, to build things from the ground up rather than, I think especially on like NIP, it was like a weird amalgam of what they already had, and he's trying to add things in. There is obviously like the buy-in there, but it can be difficult like if there's already things that NIP run that they enjoy. And the same certainly for G2, where you've got obviously some big personalities there and personalities that have also found a lot of success from their system already. They got very, very close, to winning a major even. So I do feel there is maybe a bit of retroactive appreciation for Alexi B's position in some of those teams. Still, at the same time, I just think that this micromanaging style that he has been known for me in the common game, the modern game, is not really that effective. it's difficult. It is difficult, right? Na'Vi are a really big organization and system, and you've got Blade in there as well. How much of it is down to him working with these new pieces? We're not really sure. You've obviously got the goat. You've got Bit, who is an amazing rifler as well. So, yeah, they have been performing very well. These new boys. So I don't know. It's definitely a lot faster, I think, than maybe people were expecting. They've held their own at the other events that they've been playing, right? Making late stages, but not quite getting over the line. I think second is pretty good in Pro League. At the same time, it's a bit tough. The
honeymoon period.
Yeah, there's that.
There,
And then
there is an
run...
Alexi B honeymoon period that I've seen people talk about, that like he'll have a good start to rosters and then fall off pretty quickly. And yeah, there's also that BO5 final record as well, where he hasn't won a single map. Is that right? I think I read.
Oh, really?
Something like that. In any final.
But yeah, and I think the run as well wasn't like super impressive. You know what I mean? Like they're teams that are lower down that you would expect Goliath like Na'Vi to beat anyway. Maybe Monty's like the only one that they run into where there's a little bit of this team looks pretty good right now. FaZe is sort of the classic rivalry, but obviously we know that FaZe are on a downturn at the moment. So other than that, like the other games just felt like there wasn't really much in them in terms of their oppositions. They maybe had a bit of an easier run to get there as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously not totally dumpstered, but a pretty convincing victory, I think, to get a 3-0 in a BO5. That last map goes a bit close, but other than that, it was pretty easy for Mouse, it looked like. And even if they had dropped that Mirage, they probably go on to win the thing relatively comfortably in a 3-1 fashion, which is also pretty impressive for a BO5. So I do feel like Na'Vi, for me, good performance, sure, look good on the eye test, but then you've got some of the best players in the game, so it's kind of easy to say that. I would take it with a pinch of salt. I'd maybe wait until Sydney, see how they look there. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's going to be on a new game, so now it's kind of like even more difficult because you're going to give everybody a bit of let's wait and see at CS2, right? But I do feel like Na'Vi, it might be a bit short-lived, to be honest with you. I don't know. They've got some great pieces. I'm just not a massive fan of Alexi B. And like you're kind of saying there, Trav, I think that under pressure and crunch time and trying to push a team to the next level, I don't know that he's really done that in a long time, to be honest.
What did you want to say? You seem
I have a lot of things
to say something.
I have a lot of things to say.
Let's go.
The fraud.
First of all, I don't really see where the honeymoon period is for this roster. They absolutely crashed out of all of the tournaments that they've played until now.
Okay.
Like, they looked
I'm
terrible.
talking about previous ones, by the way, as well.
Okay.
Like, I'm combining it with previous instances of rosters he's had.
But they've looked terrible before this. And you've had to bring together one player that is staunchly against playing internationally, and that's Bit, right? Considering he's being playing on Russian teams. You have a player who has a huge ego and simple, right? You have a player that has not proven himself in tier 1 and has a sample size of 1 S tier LAN in IME. And you also have another fiery character in JL. And you were expected to now create a functioning roster that is expected to contend for titles. Now that's a pretty big undertaking. And when you look at the first glance, it looks like it's not possible. And it looks like a lot of players are out of their depth. A lot of people cannot face the pressure, and it looks like the team is just going to implode on itself, and it doesn't really work. But I am very impressed by how cohesive Na'Vi looked at this event. It is not necessarily the results that I care about in this situation. It is their trajectory and preparation for the CS2 major. And in that sense right now, they look in very good form to at least look like a cohesive unit to qualify for that event. Because before this, I don't even think they were in the realms of that conversation. I think that there was a world where they just don't make it all together, or something even worse, right? Yeah. But I think that more importantly, I feel like Bit looks so comfortable on this roster right now, which is something that I would not have considered saying whatsoever. One of the highest rated players at this event. I did a video on him, and he just has such good flight paths of how he's taking certain duels that I think Alexi B can kind of leave him on his own, and Bit just kind of takes one part of the map all on his own, and it makes the calling so much easier for him that the mid to late rounds look very, very efficient. They looked very they look much more calculated than what I've seen from Alexi B previously. Simple looks much more comfortable in terms of just overall like mood. He looks happier. He looks like he feels like he can actually win with this roster. His interviews are actually positive.
JL's doing.
And when it comes down to it, I think when you have a player like Simple on your team, you just need to make sure this guy's in good spirits because clearly it's converting in terms of the actual statistics and output that he's giving. So overall, I think that this team has just turned around very, very quickly. And I think the thing that's holding them back right now is officials, of course. I think it's obviously pressure-filled games. They haven't necessarily gotten to those positions themselves. All these players in this roster have not necessarily gotten to that point, bar Alexi being Simple, and that's just going to be something that they're going to have to go through as a team. But I do like the fact that they're now on the same page. I think getting Alexi B and Blade to be on the same page is something very that they weren't able to do on G2. It always felt like they were one game plan on one half from Xtaz and one game plan for the other half of Alexi B, and it never really meshed well. But it actually feels like there's some sort of cohesion here that I wasn't able to see on that G2 roster. And that is what I'm really excited about. Because, again, I think this is a project that is for the long, long term. There's so much time now between now and the major. And I think that's what the utmost priority right now is getting ready for that RMR. And they're definitely ahead of schedule, in my opinion. And for that, that's why I'm really excited about Navi.
Okay, but, right, let's...
But, straight away. But...
Fraud.
Let's say a year from now, partner, right? So consider the lay of the land at the moment with Ents playing as well as they have been playing and consistently as what they've been playing. G2 still a contender in a way, in quotation marks. Cloud9 going through changes, which we'll come to in a little bit. Obviously, so are Vitality, so they maybe take a dip off. But where do you see Na'Vi in comparison to those teams kind of a year from now going towards CS2? Like, in terms of, I guess you're basically going off raw potential, but where do you see them? Like, because, I mean, this is also the kind of the other conversation I've had in my mind. Obviously, you have this result here, which is very good, but where do you see them in a whole in terms of, like, 12 months time, post, after the first major, or maybe it's kind of, EPL on CS2 in a year's time? Like, where do you see this Na'Vi team? Do you think they have that kind of the potential when other teams steady the ship a little bit? Do you think they have the potential to still remain at the moment like a top 5 team in your eyes?
Well, this is the caveat, right? Is I think that Ima is still not comfortable on this team. If I had to hold back and actually give criticism to Navi, it would be that I'm still not confident in Ima. And that's and initially I was thinking he's not been given enough resources to potentially perform, but they've given him all his roles. Like, they give him so much support. They've actually leashed Simple a little bit more than usual. And Simple's actually willingly taken that step back. And that, in my eyes, means that for as far as Ima is concerned, he's got to have the go button and then some. He's got to showcase why he was so good at that Paris major and showcase if he's actually that good of a rifler. And I don't necessarily believe in him. And that's my issue. So I think that player could easily be replaced because that is a very stats-hungry role that he has. And I think Navi is very willing to pay the money to actually get a prime player in that position. So I think that automatically boosts the potential of this roster. And I still will not doubt Simple until I see like an absolute crash out. I still believe in Simple, and I think that the potential that he has is always going to make Navi relevant. That and eventually you just have to have a couple pieces around him, and you can always update that given a year. I think that this roster is still going to be relevant.
I think the signs are good. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Sorry. Considering how good of an entry JL is right now, I'm very pleased to say that he's made the transition very comfortably. And I think Bit is only going to get better with time as far as the language barrier is concerned. I think that's the only thing that's stopping him.
Yeah, I think the signs are really good. I mean, the only thing that worries me is that like, how long can JL be Simple's personal emotional support puppet for? Because it seemingly that's what he is. Like, he's the main man on the team that keeps Simple's morale up most of the time. They're the ones that have the most laughs with each other. And Ima improved. Ima certainly significantly improved this Pro League compared to previous attempts, as you say, they were a mess. You weren't wrong. But is that going to be a slight, just a slight sort of uprise when in reality the floor is quite a low floor? I think he can get better, as you say. He's only ever played one STL land before Pro League. Like, you're right, with like the major was the only one. And he can obviously have some time to improve too. But at the same time, I'm wondering if they can do what you want to see from them with Immer. I think he's the only weak link at the moment, and while he may have improved, like I said, how much time can you truly give him? How long can the morale stay at a good level with JL and Simple on good terms? Like, there obviously we know what Simple's like on the team, what his mentality and what he's like when it comes to communications. There was one round on Pro League, I think, where it was like overpass, pissed around. They're on pillar on monster. I think it was Immer and Simple in like a 2v1 or whatever, and and Simple had to win the 1v1. And as soon as he won the 1v1, the first thing he said that it was very obviously lip readable was, "Guys, what the fuck are we doing?" or something. I mean, that's just Simple, fair enough, but like, can Immer learn? I'm sure like Game Legion was nothing like this. Like, can Immer learn to play in an environment like that, like he used to? Not in the same roles, of course. He was very much set up in Game Legion, but can he play to the best of his ability in this sort of weird environment?
Yeah, I think it could be really challenging as like a new boy on the block. JL, obviously, as we're saying, seems to have fit in a bit more, and Immer maybe there's more expectations on him, so I think there's certainly more pressure because he's shown that he is capable. Although, indeed, we're now saying, is it a bit of a flash in the pan? The mechanics are there, and then you have this sort of mental block of your own that you have to get back there. How are you going to get back there? Then you're playing with Simple. It can maybe be a bit difficult in the environment. They're expecting more from you. They're giving you more to do, maybe, or at the very least, like more than you may have been expecting first going into the team. And then, yeah, just working around and earning the respect of the stalwart of Simple, and also a little bit of Bit, and maybe indeed of Blade. But definitely of Simple is going to be the big one, right? I think for Immer. And if he can't quite get over that, I think for this guy, it has to be a bit more in his own head, right? Rather than what he's capable of doing on the server, because like I say, at the major he absolutely proved it, and quite substantially proved it as well. It wasn't just a series or whatever where it's like, wow, this guy could be pretty good. It was the whole tournament long. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for him. I think it really is going to be a challenge, and especially in this team as well, when we've got Alexi B. Say what you will about his IGL style, but just by virtue of being so hands-on, his numbers are not fantastic, so it needs the rest of the other pieces to be pretty good. Although saying that, he did have actually some decent series here at Pro League, to be fair. So,
honestly, I think individually, Alexi is one of like the above average IGLs, like when it comes to personal stats in general. Like, he has a few shitters, don't get me wrong, but like I really think that like numbers wise he's not too bad. But yeah, just touching on Immer again, like, just wanted to bring up that last little point, that headline interview on HLTV, which he said, I cannot be the guy who's saving the team. Like, that was a bit beta, right? You know what I mean?
Like he has to be.
Like, he has to play to the best of his ability. You have what you say. I will. The line you want to be on the on the headline would be, "I will try my best to help this team," not "I cannot save this team." That's just not right. Like, it's
and are they not putting him in like a closing position as well? Like in some of
put him in a lot of very
situations. You know what I mean? So it's like
very similar roles to that of Gamer Legion. I'll be completely honest with you. It is second, third in on T sides. Alexi B creating space, and Ime is expected to clean up. So I don't think there are any excuses for him,
Okay.
I think that he is expected to perform, and that is my issue with it. Is if you go around saying that, it's like, dude, you are given the keys to the kingdom. You are expected to perform well. And if you can't, then Navi is not the organization for you. Because if you're on Gamer Legion, right, you're not expected to win on that roster. You weren't expected to have that run at the Paris Major. You were a band of misfits just trying to hodgepodge something together with just very less resources. Now you're on an organization that is expected to win, expected to contend for championships, and you are the prime factor for that, right? You've been bought for an insane buyout from Gamer Legion, and you were expected to perform. I do think that headline was just a bit odd, because he's supposed to be a a superstar signing, right? He's definitely not name value in terms of the longevity of his career, but off of the back of Paris, it's expected that he is supposed to save this team, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, we've been quite positive. I'm on heavy fraud watching this team. I don't trust that one event. I'm still looking at the grand scheme as what has been a shit start for Na'Vi. Bar one event, right? Granted, the most important event.
I've played 3 events.
Yeah. But 2 out of 3 were bad. So we're looking at the majority here. We're looking, I will live and die by it, and I like really don't care. Like, I don't rate Alexi B as a caller. I'm one of those people, and I don't think he is going to make this team good. I hated the signing when it came through. We spoke about it on the pod. I still don't really like it. And now if Imma's also not comfortable, and
But you're not giving a reasoning. I don't understand. You're just saying that you don't like him.
I don't like his calling style.
But watch the depth. But they're winning. I don't understand.
Yeah, but one out of the 3 events. What I'm saying is, like, right now we don't have a big enough thing for us to say whether it's been successful or unsuccessful. But I don't trust it, is what I'm saying, because we've been on this road before. He's had a lot of opportunities and never found that consistency as a caller, and has been dropped in the past. Obviously, you're going to all remember the G2 one. I'm one of those people who doesn't like his style of kind of micromanaging calling. If it is working with Blade, then fair enough. But as a whole team, I don't trust it. I think they still need another change. I don't think this. I still like. Again, we spoke a lot about him. I just don't think he's fitting in. I don't think he's playing kind of the way they were hoping he was, with kind of the top 8 blast kind of Immo, where he was the man. Like, 1.41 rating going in towards that final game against Vitality. But it doesn't mean that, like, with the right change, that they can't be a good team. I'm just saying right now, I don't think this is a consistent, like, elite level team. Like, I see this team, if I look at kind of the top 5 right now, and I make a prediction of who will consistently be in the top 5, I probably wouldn't put Na'Vi in mind going in towards kind of next year, for example. Especially if Mal's now into the fray too. Like, I'm putting teams like, let's say without any roster changes. Granted, there probably is going to be some. Like, let's not kind of beat around the bush here, but like, right now I'd put the likes of kind of the Ences, Maus, even Vitality right now. Granted, they don't make any changes. Obviously, losing ZONIC's a big thing, which we'll come to in a little bit. But as just a core 5, still is one of the best teams in the own world. Easily still a top 3 team. And then you've got like some, you just expect people like teams like G2. I'd have more faith in, if I'm looking at a team, if it's G2 versus Na'Vi, I'd always go towards G2 right now, or still. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I stand. I don't have faith yet. Like, obviously it was a very good tournament. I'm not taking anything away from them. But I need to just see more. I just need to see it on a more consistent basis, because this is the thing we saw. Like, Travis spoke about it. Like, back on G2, he had these periods where it was like, okay, they fixed it. Like, they've steadied the ship a little bit. And it looks okay, and then it just falls off a cliff. So
it's sad though, because G2 was such a blot on his copybook. Because, like, I agree with you that I'm not one way or the other. I'm very happy to be a fence sitter on this one, but I think I would maybe 5% lean toward I can believe in him, because what he did with Ents was obviously incredible, considering that was a team that no one had ever heard of at the time until they finally broke through. But in this new era, he still managed to, let's be real, push a very average NIP team. What was it, major playoffs? It was, right? They did make playoffs with one major with him. And for that team was not great. Look where they are now. That's the whole point without him.
Yeah.
Like, look where they are now. They're looking to maybe get rid of Brolin and maybe make some more changes. So I believe in it in a small sense. The only thing I will agree with on Neo's point is that, one, the Pro League 1 run was a little bit, compared to Mouse's, it was, even though they didn't lose a map, compared to Mouse's, it wasn't that great, even though they didn't lose a map, as I said, until Mouse. And also, I think giving them more time, as it's only been 3 events before I truly make a call, is also accurate. So
all I'm saying is Alexi hasn't won anything since 2019, so that's fair enough.
Fair enough. I'm happy to move on.
Yeah,
differing opinions is what makes this interesting.
He's not won anything since 2019, so
I'm not going to keep arguing. I can argue for another couple hours here. With
roster changes is probably another one to go into. I guess probably as the big thing. We can start with probably arguably the biggest one, I guess, like in my opinion, is the ZONIC one. I think that is just quite interesting in terms of all the drama around it, right? With obviously probably the most important one saying just after winning the major with Vitality also take a pay cut is baffling. But ZONIC, and Lars Robbel to set to transfer to Falcons coming through. I mean, this, first of all, is really interesting in the sense that Falcons have just come in and been like, right, ZONIC, here's, like, the rumors are getting paid more than 99.9% of pros, which, first of all, is pretty insane. I'd probably say, I don't know who probably, if I had to guess, I'm saying pretty Simple's the highest paid player. If I had to make an assumption.
Yeah, maybe one of the Liquid boys.
You reckon? Over Simple?
Yeah, it was like, that could be close. Someone like Naf, who's like a legacy player for Liquid.
I don't think they have that kind of money to throw
I
around.
don't think they do.
Yeah, they don't.
Definitely do not.
Yeah,
No.
Liquid are not like financially that sound. But Na'Vi have more money than they know what to do with. I'd probably say like maybe him or Nico, Simple or Nico, probably the two I'd throw out there. I feel like G2 is super Liquid as well because they're like run by a VC or whatever. But if you get paid more than 99%, essentially like that already is huge, especially for a coach. That's insane. Like the monetary side of thing, and also I think the most important side of thing is that Falcons have said you've got an empty checkbook, do whatever you can, like sign whoever you can, which means that he now has financial pulling power to build a really sick team. So I think this really does shake things up a little bit. Obviously, they went for something a little bit audacious, Falcons, with their kind of move bringing in MHL, Boros, and Lawan X. It hasn't really worked out. They've kind of just been okay, but not really done anything special. And now bringing in ZONIC, and then Lars, who's the sports psychologist. But I'm assuming obviously just kind of quite key to ZONIC and what he likes to do. It is, I think, really interesting because there's now, when you think about them, Falcons giving him just buy whoever you can, we'll facilitate it essentially. This now gives up opportunities for them to build, you know, in a sense, a super team, right? Because if he has an open checkbook, obviously Falcons are owned by essentially by the Saudi Arabian government, so they do have like unlimited money. So it's kind of insane when you think about it. Like the signings they could make, this could be like the Man City of like CS:GO. Like, you know, they can just buy whoever the fuck they want, no repercussions, which is pretty cool. Just because it lets you theory craft like so much.
The rumor is that they're trying to gut FaZe or Vitality, right? Which is kind of crazy that they have the ability to do something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not gonna get political about it, but it is very nerve-wracking, right?
FaZe need the money at this point. Some teams like FaZe
are probably selling their entire roster right now. To be fair,
FaZe are getting like delisted from the Nasdaq. They need money.
Well,
they need shit. Yeah.
They could probably get some.
It went from like being a $1 billion company as well. Like it's happened so fast for them. So
I'd actually recommend watching Richard Lewis's video on it. It's very funny. He fucking tears into shreds. But no, you're spot on. FaZe need the money. They're like gonna get delisted for the Nasdaq. Honestly, that org looks like it's on the road to be shut down anyway. They could get some fucking Black Friday deals there. Some like 40% offers to keep that team afloat. Black Friday is not for like a, you know, we still got a couple of weeks till Black Friday. They can get some early deals.
Yeah, but they do
Falcons.
like pre-Black Friday sales all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Amazon's already started.
We're pushing it back.
Black Friday started in June. I'll be getting adverts from Amazon for the longest time.
Yeah, it's so true.
And Falcons are looking at FaZe and being like, "Oh, buyouts 400k. Here's 200. I know you'll take it."
If they're late, they can go for Cyber Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
It's it's actually really interesting, dude, because like if you the FaZe one. Fuck FaZe, they're just such a dumb run organization. Like they kind of brought up on themselves. But Vitality is super interesting. If they can gut Vitality, that's insane because this is a
purely because ZONIC loves them.
Yeah, it's first of all also a well-run organization. They do a lot of good stuff, and they're actually I don't know they make a profit. I don't know how it works, but they've got the best CS:GO team in the world. They've got the best Rocket League team in the world, and they've got a pretty competent Valorant team too. They're in partnership. They're in everything. I don't really know about.
Do they have a league spot?
I don't know.
They spend a lot of money in league. They get the best players in league. They don't win, but they make super teams every year.
Yeah,
so
but you have
they
have like a LEC's like half franchised, isn't it? It's not like fully,
LEC,
but it's like half.
Yeah.
So
they have a Dota
there's
team?
money coming in there.
I don't know. I don't really follow any MOBAs. But...
I would imagine not if they have a league team.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay, fair.
Not many of them cross over.
Right, sure. But what I'm saying is like they have elite teams in every esport, right? And they're also well run, from my understanding. I don't know if they're like financially, like I doubt they make a profit. Very few organizations do, especially at that level. If they're building super teams in the league, for example.
Ents is like the only one who has.
Yeah, isn't League
Ents.
like even more expensive than CS? Like some of those guys, like I know, like
Probably,
like
yeah.
Faker is like a tower or some shit. And like
It's probably it's probably difficult with Vitality because as Paladin sorts it, but then they're rebuilding teams. But I don't know in terms of wages. Like obviously you've got some of the best players, and also you bought a bunch of players that were storied already. So it's not like they've come up in your team. You know, you will have been paying top dollar to get those boys on your team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably difficult to compare the two at the moment.
Yeah, what I'm saying is they're not like getting teams that are in trouble, like financially, like a FaZe, or not anymore, but Heroic at one point were financially in trouble. They've actually been saved. Apparently, they had a VC come in and buy them out, so they're chilling. Apparently. But yeah, like they're not getting like, you know, not just a team like FaZe. If you're going for Vitality, who's like one of the most stable organizations in the world, that's such a flex of power. It's like, you're the best team in the world, we're gonna take your best players. Like that's wild to me. So like that's an insane looking. This whole change is like gonna be a big shake up for me.
I guess we can transition that into the conversation about CADIAN as well, because obviously he is gone from Heroic now, which is absolutely insane to think about the heart and soul
as we record.
Of a roster that has risen through the ranks across the last 3-4 years now.
4 years he's been with them.
And that is just insane to me that he is now gone, because not only does that completely gut Heroic in terms of the trajectory that I think that they're heading towards, it also now boosts a myriad of potential targets. You look at Liquid, you look at G2, you look at Astralis, you look at Falcons. There are so many different options now for him that I think that a lot of these organizations have to take a long, hard look at their IGL, look at the road path that is ahead of the next couple of months now, that you have time to build in a new system if you want to. Do we take this offer, and do we give a blank check to CADIAN to come to our team?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, right? Like, he is a fantastic player in a lot of different facets of the word, you know? Obviously, IGL and AWP in one. We don't have many of those. We don't have many of those that are as effective as he is, and for so long. I think as well, it can't be underestimated the sort of energy that he can bring to a team. He does maybe go overboard a little bit, right? So perhaps you'll have to find it. There might be some personalities in there that don't quite like that. You never really know, but he's going to bring some energy. He's going to bring some good morale as well. And obviously such a great kind of game plan, I think, that Heroic have gone through many different iterations, many different styles, you know, super aggressive recently, but they definitely had a period under CADIAN where it was a bit more thought out. They were sort of like a second fiddle to Astralis, right? And just sort of copying a lot of what they were doing years ago. So I think it's definitely interesting that he has become available. I think the thing I kind of want to talk about here is the fact that Heroic are probably, I feel, going to hit rock bottom pretty soon.
Have they not already? That Pro League was rock bottom.
Well, yeah. I was going to say this event is kind of testament to that. But we can look at Pro League in isolation. If CADIAN had stuck with them type thing, you know, you'd say, it's one event. Might not happen again. Usually they're pretty good for their group stages. But obviously now they've lost CADIAN, it's like, oh, well, shit. Right? Yeah. Like that may well have been a telltale sign as to why he's leaving. And the whole rebuild process, I don't know that it's going to happen. Because as well, a lot of these other players on Heroic have not really played under anyone at a higher level. You know, it really is scary. It really is very, very scary for these guys as to whether they can recover back or not. So I do worry for the rest of Heroic, who have a few young players in there, a few with a lot of experience, of course, but I don't know who comes in to pick up the mantle. And then you have obviously lost 2 pieces of your team in one, which is just really shit, to be honest. It's very unlucky. So they're probably looking at one of the guys that are already on the team to pick up the IGL mantle and then find a Danish AWPer.
Yeah, and who do they pick
up? Again,
right?
it's yeah, exactly. It's another one where it can be very difficult to look at who you're going to pick up.
Glaive.
I don't know, man. Like, I like, honestly, like, I saw so many people mention that to me, like, earlier today, like, Glaive, but, like, is he gonna make this team good again? Like,
I'm not sure. I've seen it mentioned too. Yeah, I know. Like, I've seen it mentioned a lot as well. I'm sort of the opinion of, okay, he's got children now. He's got a life with his wife and kids.
And he is washed.
What's the
like,
what's the
let's not beat around that
motivation
bush.
like? What's the motivation like? Is he really want to try and prove himself in a team that's not Astralis? Does he really want to try and does he want to risk tarnishing the legacy? You know,
Yeah.
like
He's
Yeah.
also just like
I'll
not that good
say-
anymore. Like he wasn't good for like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I'll say that Stown is a better opera than Cadian. I will put that gauntlet down and I will rest my case.
So you think
because I
Stown
think
should
that
all but
Cadian.
bring an IGL basically? Is the
Yes, I think that's what they should do because I don't think that there's any player on that team that is capable of IGLing.
Yeah.
I think that
Sure,
I think they should be dedicated to the roles that they've been given because they are some of the best in the world at doing so. Shush should not be having to IGL, right? One of the best, if not the best, anchor in the world right now in terms of support. You look at Tessus, one of the better entries in the world right now. I wouldn't want him entering and trying to call as well. That'd be a nightmare. You'd usually want a middle of the pack player to be calling anyways. And then of course Stown is your more so star player that is buddying up and trying to go second in on a lot of these map control plays. And I wouldn't want him calling either. I think you can make a case for him to call if anybody, but I would rather him just trying to ball out and just frag out, right? And
Yeah.
with that, I think you just make him up. You can make him very stationary. You don't have to make him very flashy. You can play him like a device if you want to. And Glaive, of course, knows how to play with that type of a player very well. And I don't think that it's out of the realms of possibility. Cadian's numbers were not the best. I don't think you need to individually be at your absolute peak. We've seen what he's been able to do, what Cadian's been able to do when you are just a B tier opper. I think it's possible. I don't know.
Do you know what, though?
It really does come down to the hunger though. I will agree
Yeah.
with you, Trav. It comes down to whether or not he really wants it.
One thing I find really interesting about this whole discourse, though, and it's something that like is changed so much from like last night to today, right? Literally, the span of one night's sleep is that as of last night, everybody, you know, you look around the kind of the scene, everybody was saying, oh, it's probably gonna be minus Tessus. Like that's what everybody was saying. That's what the rumors were going. Everybody was like theory crafting who comes in for Tessus, what Dane do they bring in? Do they bring in an AWPer and just make a Cadian IGL, for example, or something like that, right? And it was all the conversation was like minus Tessus, and now things have completely changed, and like people kind of forgotten that Tessus has been struggling in his own way, and there was like people, the majority of people, I mean, we even had conversations about it kind of in private, saying like we'd actually be happy if it was minus Tessus, and you know we were talking a lot at Paladin about how if it was Cadian just IGLing and someone else coming in towards to AWP, for example, and they change the roles up, and then maybe, you know, Cadian does some entry fragging or something like that. You know, they were kind of the same way Carrigan entries and IGLs. So the whole conversation, the whole scene was talking about they were theory crafting it was minus Tessus. Nobody thought it was minus Cadian, just because of the sense that like he is heroic, like he is the face of the team. Like it feels like they have lost their identity, in my eyes anyway. And I feel like what stops this team becoming Copenhagen Flames? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I like right now, like obviously you've spoken about it. Probably one of the best support players in the world, alongside Perfecto, in my opinion. Granted, obviously not going that great in Cloud9, which we'll get to. But it's still in my eyes, I think Perfecto's one of the best support players, and I think also you're absolutely spot on with the likes of Shush. So you know you can't move him. You can't move Stan, of course, because he's the best player on the team by a long shot. Yabi's been inconsistent, so there's been problems there. Can he keep up the form when he doesn't have that kind of father figure in the team? Who knows? Because he still is like relatively inconsistent, and then also quite young himself. One of the more like I think he's like one of the more immature players just generally in that team in terms of experience. And then yeah, like for me, it does become quite interesting because I just feel like without a real kind of experienced head of this team, I don't see what stops this team becoming just dog water. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't see them taking like you're talking about Skriv, like hitting like a real tumble, because I just feel like they don't have the identity. They don't have the guy who is the glue to this team, right? He's everything.
Yeah.
You see these like pre-match like huddles and shit. It wasn't enough for him. There was dead silence. Just four guys who were like, oh, that's like, you know what I mean? Like there's just no noise. So I'm really worried about like the culture of this team just now becoming like translating to bad performances unless they bring in someone super experienced. But then who? What Danish guy? You bring in Glaive, which is the conversation that everybody's been having in my eyes. I don't know if he fixes this team in my eyes because of how poor the last 2 years have been. You know, he had a contract until 2025 with Charlotte, and they were rather like, yeah, fuck that. Like, I'd rather not. Like, I'd rather bring in, you know, Buzz. You know what I mean? So like, I'd rather try Borop, which is wild. So for me, I think like that's where I'm quite worried that like people are just forgetting that Glaive has been really bad for a while.
Sure.
It's like, like if someone tried to say to me like, oh, plus Zipnex, just sock them in the throat. You know what I mean? Like, so so it's just like, I don't know. I feel like people just have like this like real, just like they just forgot like Glaive is like just not that guy anymore, and like he was rough, dude. I was seeing tournaments where he was dropping like 0.49 performances. You know what I mean? Like, how is he going to come just straight back into tier 1 at the top?
Yeah, but he's
level?
also playing. Yeah, but he's also playing with Zipnix at his side. So like, do you really think that anybody's ratings would be great? I mean, I think that there is this big conversation between Glaive and Kerrigan being the GOAT IGL, right? And I think that this could just very quickly answer that whole narrative very quickly. If he fumbles with Heroic, it's just over, right? And if it isn't, if he does succeed, if they start winning championships, right, that could be just everything. That could very comfortably secure him as the GOAT. I think just throwing down that gauntlet and that concept just being so tantalizingly close is what makes that move so interesting.
Yeah.
Right? That is what makes it like just an S tier move for me, just to see what would happen, right? What if it's like, there's that pickle jar theory. I don't know if you guys have heard this, where like a lot of one person does a lot of effort to try to open the pickle jar, but they can't actually open it, and then the second person comes along and just opens it just a little bit to open it. Stanislaw and Daps, that's a very good, very obvious comparison. And Glaive did it to Kerrigan on Astralis as well. What if he does it with Heroic after CADIAN? I think all of those aspects could be so exciting, and that's why I personally think it could work. Just that narrative would be really fun.
It feels like as well, if you're both parties, right? Like you've given the Glaive side there, but also from the Heroic side, like why the fuck not? You know what I mean? Like,
what other option do you have?
Yeah, and we've got
right?
we've got this obvious thing that's like CADIAN's going to leave a massive void role wise, morale, all that. But there were already big problems within the team in the sense that as soon as they got to like a semi-final, there was just a switch that flipped, and it was like half the team just went missing, and usually CADIAN would still be able to put up his numbers and all this kind of stuff, but a lot of the bigger stats hunters were really struggling in playoff stages, and that has been the case for a while. It's like a running gag almost, that it's like, you can't beat them in the groups, but as soon as the stakes are high, as soon as they're going to get into higher prize pool, so they have some serious issues already. And to be honest, like if CADIAN is dipping, like come on, man, that has got to be the straw that broke the camel's back in this sense. They're so demotivated. The only thing keeping them going is the captain, this guy with so much energy, and he just dips. He's like, actually, I don't think there's anything I can do here, boys. You're holding me back. I'm going to go find a new team. Maybe it will be Falcons. Maybe the money swayed him eventually, right? And the prospects of a new team, that there's a lot of freedom. All these things are obviously going to be very, very inviting to pro players in general, but also a pro player like CADIAN who has the chance to work with a ZONIC. He's not done that before, right? If this is where he ends up, I feel like he's got to. I feel like CADIAN won't have left without a game plan already. Yeah, it wasn't that bad in the team from what we can see, culture-wise and whatnot, that he's like, I have to get out of here. I think it was more like he maybe sent the feelers out, see what's up, or perhaps someone's come to him. Perhaps ZONIC's got a bit of a head on his shoulders and knows that CADIAN will be kind of upset. But yeah, in terms of like adding Glaive, I think like go for it. You may as well. Stown could up, might be a bit weird, but let's just try it. Like it really is in a position for Heroic when they're expected to be a top 10 team and a top 4 finisher relatively consistently. What have you got to lose?
There's no options. There is like we have an IGL show.
I agree.
It's as simple as that. There is no options, right? Like don't get me wrong. Like I don't rate the Glaive move just because I just don't. I don't know if he's got, like you're talking about, like that motivation anymore. Like it feels like he's done everything he can do in his career. He's now got a different outlook on life with the kind of the whole kids and whatnot. He's not actually that old. He's like what, 28 and something like that, 28, 29.
Still got time. Yeah.
He's still got time. Don't get me wrong. Like he's definitely not like. He's
28.
not. Yeah, there you go. He's not over the hill in terms of age-wise. I just don't know. I don't know if he fundamentally fixes this problem, because I just like feel like he still doesn't bring an identity to this team. I think he's the only option. There is no other IGLs. Like the only other IGL I can even think of in Denmark that isn't over the hill as Manx, who's obviously on a M80, but then also Manx kind of really isn't.
He's not leaving.
He's not actually even like really an IGL in the sense.
Yeah.
He's an IGL out of necessity.
Glaive Orc for a
very
bit.
loose.
Don't forget.
When Bird from Sky left, basically. Realistically, Bird from Sky's the GOAT. Realistically, is what I'm saying. He should have done it. I'm joking. But like, but no, yeah. There's no other options. Obviously, because the only other option that they could do, which I don't think they would do, was go international. But I just don't think Heroic would do this.
Not now. I mean, they used to be, yeah, Swedish and Danish, but yeah, it's weird, right? I agree with you, and I'm actually going to be of the opinion. I'm going to go a little bit more wild with this one and say that I think this is where this team. You mentioned like a lot of these pieces aren't working right now. I actually think this is the end for this 4-man.
I agree.
That's left.
Yeah, you think it'll just
I think this is going to implode. I think they're going to be blown up. I think they're going to be picked apart one by one. I don't know if necessarily, as you say, like Heroic need the money anymore.
Apparently they don't. The rumor I've heard is that they got bought. They didn't announce it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think that was kind of what happened. I saw like a
but
few
even if they don't need the money, though,
tweet about it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that though, if you remove CADIAN, as everyone has been saying, you remove the guts, the passion, and the heart from the team. I think that especially with these projects that are going around right now with Astralis, I mean, we haven't even spoken about that. There's been a significant rumor that
Push for Borup.
Yeah.
Bro,
There's
so sexy.
There's been a significant rumor that Borup could go, even Stair could go as well for such a short period, and they would keep Buzz because Device loves Buzz with Blame. They'd keep that 3-man core, and they just pick apart a couple of the Heroic players like Tessus and Shush maybe. And maybe move forward with that, and that would be so exciting for Astralis. But yeah, I'm of the opinion that I think this is the end for this Heroic, particular Heroic 5, and now this particular Heroic 4. The only thing that can save them is they go full Liquid and bring Exist back into the roster as an IGL. It'll fix it. I'm joking. It won't work. They're not going to go full daps.
You're missing out on one.
They might do that though.
No, bring MSL back, mate.
MSL,
Get
on the phone.
No way.
Don't be getting my hopes up.
Imagine like just the timeline of that as well, though. That it's like
he
He
retired.
retires.
He's been chilling in tier 3 for a while. Had had like an organization behind them for like 2 years or something, and then when they all came out, they lasted about a month. And then he's retired, and then he comes back for like. You couldn't make that up if it happens.
If they even ask it, like I don't think that anyone would at this stage. But if he was actually asked by Heroic, like, do you want to lead this team? Like, do you want to come out of retirement and go one last shot?
I would say
a big
no.
team.
I would say
I
no.
think I would say no.
Yeah, do you know how horrible that must be? Like, right, we're gonna go to every tier 1 event and just get battered. Like that would be like. Obviously, like you got the money, but I don't really know if he needs money. I really don't know how. Yeah, it's really hard to tell. Like with those guys who've been around at the start when there wasn't that much money in esports, how much they've actually got.
If they were smart with their money.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
We don't know.
But yeah, like, is it worth it on the pride? That must be brutal, right? You're gonna travel 200 days a year and just get battered everywhere you go because like they probably would. Like realistically, like. He can't hold a mouse anymore. He's hung it up, quite literally. So basically, for the lack of a better term, there's no better options than Glaive. Glaive is the only option. He's benched.
For Danish, yeah.
Yeah, for Danish. If they stick all Danish, but even if they go international, who else would they pick up? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the only other guy I'm thinking of, guy deserves another shot, in my opinion. Neelan, I'm joking.
Don't you dare say that guy's name on this podcast.
the IGL slander this evening though is a little bit ridiculous. All right, we got to leave him alone.
Whoa,
that's all we do here. That's all we do here.
Don't get all right, brother. Don't get me started on Advent. I'm gonna go Blicky. We go on everything.
They're either like our savants or we absolutely hate them. There is no there's no average.
I mean, that is how it goes. That is how it goes.
But the thing is, you can. I think Game Legion have done the right thing in terms of going for a young IGL who's also like very good. There is other young IGLs, but they're just on testers. It's whether you take the risk, right? Because in a sense, Game Legion took the risk of like bringing on Shuhei and be like, dude, can you like make something out of the team? Which he did very well. There is definitely other young IGLs who can do the same thing. Like. Not saying by any means he is the option, just the first one that comes to mind of a young IGL. Maze, for example. He's like a youngster who's like not really had any proper experience. He was on Sprout for like a day, but
Playing
not
like Wu-Tang right now, right?
who are farming, by the way. That Wu-Tang team,
Did
they
really
just
well in
qualified.
advance.
They qualified, they qualified to ECL. Not again. I'm not saying Maze is the option. I'm just saying like maybe there's a world in which going the other way and going all for a young team is maybe one thing. I still think Glaive is going to be the option they go for. It's the only one that makes sense. But like, there's a world and point where you have to get to a mindset and be like, maybe we have to take a gamble here. Because like, what other option do we have?
They haven't qualified yet, by the way. It was different the other day, and I thought they had. I agree with you, but I think it's changed now, and it says the final is the game to qualify. They have to beat either Singularity, 9 Pandas, or Alternate Attacks. Really tough.
I swear I saw Maze tweet something that she'd like.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's weird because like I also saw the same thing. They won their like upper final, which I thought was the game to qualify. But now I'm looking at the grand final. It says this is to qualify now, and the previous game wasn't. Maybe HLTV's wrong. Who knows? But
well, he's tweeted saying we've qualified.
Okay, good.
So because I replied saying my go. So he's tweeted saying we qualified. So I think
hopefully that's right then.
Yeah,
I have to say no. I think you have too many goats.
No, whoa. He's just a nice kid, right? Like he's not actually.
Yeah.
No. My
lad.
My only, I don't know who actually is my go. I don't know, Shuhei. I like Shuhei.
I'll say Shuhei. Shuhei's my go.
He's also like the nicest kid ever. Like he's just funny as fuck. So yeah, I'd say he's up there. I was pretty early on the Torsy type train. In all fairness, it was my first ever interview like 3 years ago. So I also kind of rate Torsy still, just because like bias. It's my favorite thing. Got a few more I guess to talk about. Probably one of the ones that is not by no means confirmed but rumored is Boomich to C9.
I think it's pretty much confirmed.
Yeah.
So Cloud9 tweeted out last Christmas.
Which is such a wild, like it's so bait.
It's pretty.
I had a friend that told me, he was like, "Can you imagine like Hobbit is like thinking he's like safe on this roster, and he goes on Twitter and sees that he's off the team." Just like,
what is Cloud9 tweeting about? And he goes back to sleep. And then he wakes up and sees all the retweets that are like, "Oh yeah, look at this funny Boomich video from years ago."
The Windstrike X Boomich last Christmas, like just brilliant.
Brilliant.
My boy can sing,
auto-tune,
by the way.
With the help of a lot of auto-tune. But he can sing.
He's all good. It's the rest of the Windstrike fella. They should have just got Boomich doing the whole thing, man.
Yeah, he's got a bit of pipes there. I'll give him his credit.
He put some heart into it. You put some heart into it, unlike what was it, World Edit?
He doing a little jig
World Edit
too.
was dead inside.
The shoulders were going. A little bit of movement. My boy was feeling the tune. So
it would be. That's kind of insane. Look, like Cloud9's CS:GO account like choose to tweet like relatively niche reference. I guess
it's funny though. It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. I fuck with it. I do. Fuck with it.
Shav, think of the other way. What other Boomich reference are they gonna tweet? Like just like a line. You know what I mean? Like what else are they gonna go for?
What a picture of like a divorce or something?
Yeah, divorce attorney.
Divorce papers.
Yeah, it's like what they picked like one of the 5 references that was like safe for work. You know what I mean? Like it's like there was a few pictures floating around because you don't want to go on Twitter. So honestly, like I rate it though. Like it's focusing. It's dialing fellas. Just into the move itself though. I'm a big fan of it. We spoke a little bit about it on the stream earlier, Paladin, and we were saying kind of how I think Hobbit right now obviously is just not working. Like it is just like it's. This team on paper, I was saying this when it first got announced, like it should be like a top 3 team. Like it's so good on paper, this team. But it just isn't working. And I think now we bring Boomich in, who joined Ontour's 1 win as just a rifler. Nickelback was calling. It was Nickelback and Hooch's system, a very similar system to what they're using in Tropic. Obviously Forrester's there as well, so it kind of all slots in quite nicely. And then as of recent, I can't remember, it was one of the events we were doing, Skriv. It was CCT finals. So I was still under the impression that it was still Nickelback calling. And we asked the admins, we were like, "Oh, by the way, like who have 1 win put down as their IGL?" And on the form that 1 win themselves fill out, they'd put Boomich down as the IGL. So I was like, okay, shit, like they have just changed it at some point. Just obviously they've just not mentioned it at all, but they've changed it at some point from when Boomich came in towards this team at the start of the year. He came in like February time. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Sort of around then. So they're obviously changing out to Boomich calling, but I think going to C9, it just feels like I just can't see a world in which it doesn't improve them right now. Hobbit's obviously not playing well. It puts Electronic just back into hero rifle roles, which is just what you want to see. It just unleashes him again. He doesn't have to worry about calling anymore. He can go back into playing kind of the old, like we haven't seen him in like basically playing hero roles in so long, essentially, like properly, where he's not having to call as well. So for me, I just feel like it does. It sounds like a really good change. I just like it. Also, Boomic's been fragging really well. Like obviously, you got to take over the caveat of it being tier 2 and online. It is like a different stage, but he has already LAN experience. He's a major winner.
Also, he's just playing like a crackhead, man.
I love it. I love it.
He's so mental.
He'll go on these runs, like you just like get in behind them, or
Vocab there.
Huh?
Careful with how you say that.
Well,
he's playing like a crackhead.
Oh yeah, dude.
He's just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would agree though. I would agree. They haven't.
Whoa.
It's cool.
Whoa. Spot on, though.
They haven't lost a BO3 since they lost to VP in the Parry Genev party. Like they've won 2 CCTs, the online finals, Sharks, Aurora, Monty, MIBR twice. Then they won East Europe, Pompa, Preezy, Aurora, Sprout again. To beat Sprout 2-0 with how Wonderful's playing at the moment,
averaging like 1.36 something. Like
this is like if he's IGL'd all these games. I know it's online. I know he's got like great pieces in Deco and Travis and Forrester. Like even Travis has been playing quite well. I'm not just saying that because he's Travis. Genuinely, he's been playing quite well. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really cool to see if he gets a chance on Cloud9, see how much it improves quickly because I feel like maybe I think his IGLing career, if it was Forrester or was Nickelback, that was going to continue that on 1-win long term, I think his IGLing career would have been wasted. I think it's great to see him IGLing again. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm sad that he can't continue with 1 win, so I finally get my Travis stickers from a major. If he's gonna play, if they're gonna play this well, Travis is not getting poked.
They'll be fine though. Like just the pool of CS talent.
Agreed.
Tier 2, they'll find someone, dude. They'll be like some FPL god, so they'll be fine.
But like, yeah, they could easily just take someone like Dilladez from Cloud9, I reckon, from Panda. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then with Boomich going to Cloud9, I think this would be really cool to see how it goes into CS2 because I think there's a lot of IGLing life in him yet, and the fact if he gets one more chance at S tier after. We can't forget won a major with Na'Vi. Like it just feels like it's so long ago. Like the guy IGL'd Na'Vi to a major. Maybe not that hard with Simple in his GOAT era, but still, I think it was a great achievement.
I think we're pretty detached from the whole like Boomich and electronic phase of Na'Vi that we can pretty safely say that Boomich did have some sort of hand in making Na'Vi a cohesive team, right? Exactly. Like they looked like unstoppable with all the pieces that they had, and then you subtract that element of Boomich and you thrust electronic into the role, and you suddenly see that there is something that he had done to kind of get all the ducks in a row and have that sort of commanding authority on that roster. That I think that if he moves over to Cloud9, it's a very similar situation. He's already played with Perfecto. He's already played with Electronic. He knows how to activate those pieces. And I think Shiro and Axile, I don't think they really need too much guidance. They've been putting in work all on their lonesome. I don't really see this feeling like too much of an overhaul for Cloud9. I think this slots in just very easily for them. And I think the most important thing is that Electronic is now free of the shackles of IGLing, because you can see that this guy is like talking up a storm in every round. He looks stressed out of his mind, and yet still he's able to put up frags on the board. Now throw that talking stage out of it and just let him frag, and things get just very, very dangerous very fast.
Give me Flipside Electronic back, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be sick. I think this is basically. It doesn't seem like there's any downside. I think it's probably the way I'd go about it. Just because, I mean, poor Hobbit. He's obviously a lovely guy. He's quite.
I like Hobbit. I'm sad that it's not working out.
He's a gentle soul, but it isn't working out, right? There's no two ways about it. With the puzzle piece on this team, it should work. Like you've got at the end of 2022, you've got the 3rd best player in the world, the 4th best player in the world, and also the best rifler in the world at the time. You've got now the best support player in the world. And you've got a major winning hero rifler in Electronic. Like, it should work, right? But it obviously just hasn't. And I think now with a competent caller, if all goes to plan, it should be fun. I still think there is, in my eyes, reservations about Groove as a coach. I still think, I go back to what I was saying you know, when they were before the additions of Electronic and Perfecto, where I was thinking like maybe he should move to a GM role and they should bring in a coach. You know, for example, Hooch. Hooch is a good coach, man. I like my boy Hooch.
Yeah.
Be great. Yeah.
Hooch is a solid coach.
We've been saying that for a while, haven't we?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I like Groove, like
I don't think he has. I just don't think he has it. You know what I mean? I just don't think
we've been on the same
side.
page with this one for a while. We want him to move back to like the general manager or whatever it is, and we want
He's
a
good at
proper
it.
like involved coach. Like
Yeah.
Hooch is the perfect call for me.
I love Hooch, dude.
I think I can't think of anyone right now that would fit that role better, in my opinion.
It's working with one win, so like you know,
Yeah.
You don't even need proof in the pudding. It's literally working. Like it's so.
And
It's
Tropic
like,
as well.
yeah, exactly. Like you know, back in 2020, 2021, Tropic were the best team in Tier 2. There was just no other team. Obviously, it didn't translate to Tier 1. But with the pieces they've got right now, if this doesn't work, let's say you know Boomich comes in, they try a few tournaments, it doesn't work. Then I'm going for Groove. Not you know what I mean. Like there's no other reason behind it. Like I just feel like having a better coach. Obviously, those rumors when Blade was leaving Na'Vi, it was like okay, we'll take Blade right all day. To C9. Obviously, that got dispelled pretty quickly when Simple was like, "You're fucking idiots for believing this" or something like that. Or you know, whenever he said on the stream, he called people like fucking morons or something. Which you know, fair play, he was right. But yeah, like I feel like right now, if Boomich doesn't work, then you have to look towards the coach because the rest of the team there's no. It should work, right? This should be a top 3 team in the world. There's no two ways about it. Especially now going into a CS2 as well. Like players like Axel should be incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. The team is not working right now.
They're a difficult team. They're a very difficult team. I think there's a lot of really big personalities there and a lot of frustration that has been deep set for a long, long time. I remember speaking to one of their old coaches, you know, and they were difficult when they were youngsters, and it seems that some of that is a little bit more set in, and you can see it with Shiro, especially even just on the player cams and everything. So I think that's also something that they have to get over. That's probably why Groove has been sat behind them for so long, is just that he's more of a people manager.
Yeah.
So I do feel like there are a few more issues that maybe they have to get through. Someone like Boomich might have the ability to bring them round, right? I think that's something that maybe Nafany was relatively good at, having been with them for so long. He had the respect of them, and now they have these newer players coming in. Someone like Hobbit starts taking the hit, maybe doesn't work as well, right? He's not able to be as vocal.
Yeah.
Electronic a bit more hands-on than Nafany, I think, ever was. So there's definitely some big issues with Cloud9, but I think that they are, for me, maybe a little bit deeper rooted. If this move doesn't pull them out of that, then again we might see them in a pretty scary spot where they get very, very stuck despite the ceiling that these players are able to find. I also do feel that yes, they can turn it around, but Shiro and especially Axile are a little past their peaks at the moment. So I do think that is starting to take a bit of a hold over the past few tournaments that they've played, particularly since adding these newer pieces. So we'll see if this change kind of comes in and frees up Electronic, right? Electronic and Axile could be an incredibly scary duo, man. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine those two guys working into a bomb site together at the peak of their performance. It would just be terrifying, truly. So
I support them. I want to see this work.
Yeah, I
so
think we all
badly.
do. I think we all do. And the way that Axile plays at the highest point of his game is just so beautiful to watch, man. Like, he is a great, great player. His mechanics are, I think, maybe even more fun to watch than Nico, to be honest, right? Nico is so clinical with his clearing and everything, but I think that Axile is just a bit more exciting in that sense. Not that it's better, but just a bit more exciting, maybe keeps you on the edge of your seat a bit more. So I really do hope that it works out, but I'm apprehensive. I am apprehensive. I think that there are a few issues in, and this new roster, yes, it might get a change here, but I think that it has begun with kind of a black mark, right? And it really hasn't hit the ground running like everybody expected, and probably like the players expected as well. So every change that they make now has to get them to this dreamland that they maybe had in their minds when they came together a few months ago. So yeah, I definitely do worry moving forwards if the Boomich move will actually be enough.
We'll have to wait and see. I think we've got one more move basically to talk about, which is Apex and minus Stico announced also today as well, actually, as of the time of recording. So Stico stepping down, or being benched from Apex, and they're going to trial Sense from their academy. Yeah, I mean, I get this one probably doesn't need as much work in as the others, but it's obviously not been going well for Stico for a while. He's visibly looked pretty rough on that team, and yeah, they're bringing in the youngster from their academy side. In that sense, I think Apex are trying to still kind of live off that high of the major, obviously, as you would. It's not working. I think at least Gamer Legion, they made the right changes in a way, which is like, obviously, maybe not the Neelan one, but I think Volt was a good pickup. And I think he should come around once they kind of figure things out over at Gamer Legion. But yeah, Apex have really started for me to like slowly dwindle away a little bit. Obviously, kind of right now, I think they're in a bit of a rough spot where they have some good players, but it just isn't quite slotting into place. I don't know whether Sense is going to fix those problems, but he's a youngster. Why not take a gamble? Like I said earlier, I don't mind taking gambles on youngsters if you've kind of seen something there. I'm not going to kind of make any opinion on them individually because I really don't have any clue. I've honestly not watched them. I wasn't watching CCT, so there's no chance I watched their Sense. But yeah, apparently the rumors I've heard is pretty good, but I don't know personally. I think like Apex are in a bit of a rough spot. I don't really know what they do now to fix things.
I think it's cool that they're living off their like academy team and trying to promote more people, because obviously, like, you know, it's a Norwegian organization and they've always like had those roots. So getting another Norwegian in the action, I think, is cool. I think that he is definitely promising. Only 20, of course. I have to see how he goes. In terms of Apex, I think Satsunito, when he was brought in, I think honestly he's very, very good.
Yeah.
But I think once Apex were gutted with losing JL, that was the main man. I think of all the teams that did, like, we have to exclude ITB because all of them have left. But like, of all the teams that that have played well at the major and sort of put their name on the map at the major, I think losing JL, I mean, obviously we can talk about Game Legion losing Imra and Shui, fair enough, but that was going to happen, or whatever, because they made the final. All the ones that sort of made like a decent run toward the beginnings of playoffs, I think JL is the one that's gone under the radar to hurt a team more than expected. Like I think the only run that Apex have had was to qualify. Was it for Sydney or was it for something else? I think it was for Sydney. I can't remember. But yeah, I think that's the only run they kind of had to qualify for anything recently. They've been losing online on and off, and losing games they shouldn't be losing. I've seen quite a few of their matches actually, and it's just been looking rough around the edges entirely. I gotta say, props to Jacob in general for putting up really, really good quality games and numbers for so long now. I think if we're to talk about the most underrated player in World CS for like the last 8 years, might even be Jacob. I think he's the most underrated player. I think no one really talks about him as a star, but he always puts up great numbers. If they can find a piece like a young academy player that can, you know, bolster them again, I think Kixan did a great job at the major and is still doing pretty good job now. I think without Sticko, I think they don't need that extra experience if they've got Jacob and Nock.
Yeah.
I don't think Sticko is a necessity anymore. So moving him on, I think, is a great choice. I think it's going to improve them overall. Whether it gets them anywhere near the heights of getting to playoffs of a LAN, I don't think so. But still, I hope it improves them.
I don't necessarily agree completely. I don't know. There's some sort of intangible that I feel like Stico provides that I think that a lot of teams just undervalue that sort of intangible. And it's just the confidence that you can always rely on a specific player to completely deliver. And it's that reliability that I don't think that any replacement is really going to provide. It's just a big risk to run. I'm granted the risk could definitely pay off, right? If they add a little bit more firepower, then it doesn't really matter what I think. They just get better as a team, and that's that. But I think they were still hovering at a specific level that could allow them to still stay relevant. Now, this is a move that could either keep you in that relevancy and maybe bump you up a couple spots, or it could catapult you down very, very low very quickly. Because if that falls apart, then I don't really know who you rely on beyond Jacob. And yeah, honestly, just beyond Jacob, because I think Nock is pretty up and down. I think, of course, Sense is a risk as well, and Satsunito is such a risk. I actually am not too impressed by him in all honesty. I don't think that
Okay.
he's reached the same sort of heights that he had on Blue Jays. When he was on Blue Jays, granted, he had so many resources on that team and could literally do whatever he wanted because Kicksan loved him, but I don't know if he's necessarily using him in that same way. And I think he definitely can't because he has other players to kind of deal with and put them in the spotlight as well. But I don't necessarily know if if he's completely comfortable just yet. So it's that reliability that I think that I'm most worried about that they would miss, and it's an issue that's run into a lot of other rosters when they did drop Stico. I always think about how much Mouse needed him on their roster when they had initially dropped him, and they fell through the rankings because they couldn't actually
Remember
fill that void.
Remember that.
And I feel like this is one of those similar scenarios. I think you can make an argument that this is a right decision, and I'd honestly be able to be swayed, but there's always going to be something in the back of my head that it's just a repeat of that same Mouse scenario where they shouldn't have made that move in the first place just because of that reliability.
Yeah, only thing about Sense as well. Like, I know when the announcement came out earlier, we were kind of on stream. I was looking for some of his stats. Is he like, what is his role like in terms of coming towards his team? I don't know if anyone knows like what his role is.
I mean, if
I
I
watched
have
him
to guess,
play-
it's anchor.
I
Okay,
watched him
good.
play once, so I couldn't tell
Yeah,
you.
because
Yeah.
the last time I casted him was we play Academy League. I did the last 2 seasons of that, and I mean, if anyone knows Apex Rebels and we play Academy League, they were one of, if not the worst team, pretty much every season. They were like,
Yeah.
I mean, consistently like always bottom 2 in like the last like 3 or 4 seasons. Not a good team. They weren't a good team. He was not very memorable, but no one really on that team kind of was. Obviously with Sense as well. The other thing is he doesn't really have like, I know rating is not everything. That's why I was asking about his role, because like he just doesn't really put up a lot of frags a lot. So I don't know exactly what he's coming in to do in towards his team. I also think there's like one side of it which is really good because it is utilizing that academy. I think that's also quite interesting for Apex. Utilizing the academy is also a kind of good thing to hear, considering from the conversations people have, you know, Apex have as much money as a tier 1 team does, right? With kind of like without
They're kind of loaded.
without if I'm right in saying, like, I'm pretty sure like the owner of like Apex is like a billionaire. So that's what someone told me a long time ago. Fuckness, that's true. So don't quote me on that. That's just what someone told me at the major. But yeah, like they're a really, really rich organization, so they're not like just, well, they have done in the past, obviously, kind of with like the Shocks move, for example, where they just come in and just like spend on money expecting something to change. It doesn't work. I like this in terms of like, okay, well, we've got an academy team who've been putting
Use
in,
it instead.
they've been grafting.
Yeah.
Let's actually try and use them. So I do like that call. Obviously, you played the CCT with them. Don't know how that went for them. I literally have no clue. And obviously, he's now going to be continuing to play for them. I don't know. Is he perma-signed Sense, or is it a trial? It's trial. Again,
Trial, yeah.
I think that's also probably like a good call because it could actually just not work out. Like there's a real world in which he goes into towards tier 1 or tier kind of 1.5 and it just doesn't work out, right? He just kind of completely out of his depth. But then Apex do thankfully have a bit of time to work with until the end of the year to make changes. Now is the best time to make changes as well, with us now transitioning towards CS2. So it's not the worst thing for me, but I think as a whole for Apex, I'm in quite a worrisome position about them. I really did think Casnito would be the difference, because I really like him as a player, but I just don't like what I've seen from him so far. He's just like, he's not that like that firecracker of a player that he was, right? Like on Blue Jays, like watching Casnito was like a joy. Like he was just insane, like
All over the map,
yeah,
just
doesn't
bonkers.
stop,
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
ever stop.
yeah.
Like, but he just doesn't have that like freedom. Not in terms of the team, he still does in terms of the team. He just can't replicate that level of performance, right? It's obviously very hard to just like, right, be like, you know, they're kind of the same way we saw with like Monty with like Boros go kill, right? You know, like, you know, I always remember that famous interview where they're like, oh, Nafany plays connector, Boros, go get him. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of want to be doing the same things with Casita, but they just can't. Like, he just can't replicate that same level the way like someone like Boros could or Cypher could, for example. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether this is gonna make a difference, but I think generally, probably, I'm looking at this from an overarching point of view, and Apex are in probably quite a worrisome spot where I think of all the teams bar Into the Breach, from that top 8, for example. I'm also going to include the likes of kind of Liquid who've gone through changes. Obviously, you know, Rainwaker's out now, didn't work out. Dap's coming in on like a stand-in or whatever. But I still feel like Apex are the ones who are like now in the worst position overall, where there's a real strong chance we kind of just don't really see them in tier 1 anymore going into towards next year. Especially when the Valve circuit comes in, like where are they going to get invites to tournaments? They're probably not. Basically,
Yeah, fair enough.
when it goes off HTV ranking, they're already outside of the top 20, which is pretty rough. If I'm right in saying none of the others are outside of the top 20, again, Gaming Legion are 12th. So they've at least stayed inside of
That's
Monty.
a fraudulent ranking, though. That
Monty,
should be like
Very
25th.
fraudulent.
Yeah. Very true. Monty are inside the top 10 though. Like
Monty are the best for sure.
Yeah. All of those teams are still kind of sticking in and around, but like Apex aren't, and they're just gonna slowly, in my eyes. But I think honestly, I honestly don't really give a shit about the Stico change. Really, I don't care. Right? I don't think it makes a difference. I'm still confused why the fact that they dropped Cuban. Why? Like Cuban seems so important to that team, and also so good at his job. So when the rumor came out, I remember we were at Insomnia when that came out. Yeah. And the only thing for me that the reason is that he got a better offer. That's the only thing I can think of. Because why would Apex get rid of him? To bring in Mitha? Like no offense.
Been a while though, hasn't it?
But what does Mitha have to show for? To like no offense to him, like on Apex Rebels, what have they done? Like obviously he's grown some good talent there, but Cuban is such a legend and such a reliable voice, and obviously did so well to get into a top 8, and then kept them at least in the conversation a bit. Why? That feels like the biggest change for me.
He's built a couple of rosters as well. You think back to that Mad Lions roster as well, bringing them into relevancy. Obviously, JL coming from that project. So I mean, I don't really know why. And I don't think Mither has ever impressed me, to be completely honest with you.
I'm with you.
He was very mediocre on mouse. I preferred Rajin over him if we had to talk about those mouse coaches. On Apex Rebels, they came consistently last in almost every tournament they played. All of the talents that were seemingly really good outside of that system seemingly didn't perform in the system. To me, there should be no reason why Mither is on this main roster other than cost cutting, which doesn't make any sense to me because we're saying that this team has money. So I don't know.
That makes it two things. Firstly, I think if they do have money, then you only putting Sense on trial and perhaps like waiting to see if something breaks up with Heroic and Astralis and there's a leftover. Take the leftover, and that could definitely improve them for sure. And secondly, Neo, you mentioned about the CCT games you hadn't got a chance to see yet. I want to bring them up actually because I just had a look at the stats. They beat Alternate Attacks, who've been doing pretty well in Tier 2 recently. First map, 16-13 Ancient. Jacob dropped 41 in a 16-13. And then against Fours on Ancient, again, was a 25-21. Nork went 48-24, and Jacob went 42-31. So, at least at the moment, in the 2 games they played, they lost to Sprout, by the way, just to say that they lost to Sprout, and Castellito went like 14-36, which is terrible. They got farmed by Wonderful. But those 2 games, honestly, like, it's a good sign that they're still activated in a roster. It's kind of unrealistic hard carries, maybe, but they're still playing really well. So if those pieces can work, then I think other pieces in Apex long term, whether it's an academy player or maybe a pickup later on along the line who was a leftover from elsewhere, could be possible to do something with it for sure.
I'm going to say Wonderful 1.78 rating map number 1, 1.96 map number 2.
I mentioned this on the stream the other day. Like, just a quick tangent for a second. If you just go on Wonderful, click matches. Click complete statistics. I can talk. I'm a caster and I can talk. Click complete statistics, then go to matches. It's literally like I've fallen into a sea of green. There's not
mad, isn't it?
I've gone down to like how many BO3s? Like 10 before we get like a 0.9. Then you go down again and there's a few 0.9s, and suddenly I look at it again, there's another sea of green. Like I've not seen someone. Sure, maybe there's some saving stats in here too, and lots of exit frags and stuff like that. But I've not seen green stats like this in Tier 2 since Hardcore Regali on Copenhagen Flames, I think.
Or Fasher,
maybe Fasher too.
Yeah. 1.34 in the last 3 months is nuts.
Insane.
It's actually insane, and like he just seems to do this every single month. So I mean, he's insane. But I don't know. The only thing is, I'm thinking, now if you're Vitality looking for a coach, hey, Cuban's free. I'm not saying Cuban's gonna fix all the problems, but you probably want someone a little bit experienced in that team. I don't really know Who else do
really
they pick
wanna
up?
know.
Yeah,
I really want to know what Vitality are going to do. Well, are they going to get blown up like Heroic too? Are we going to lose
I
like
can't
2 of
see
our
it. I
top teams
can't
from
see
the
them.
year?
They've got too
Surely
much
not.
money. They can't. But then who coaches them, right? I think it's probably the big thing with ZONIC going out. Who do they get to coach? Because like they can't really get Xtaz because he's basically just signed a contract to TSM unless they can buy him out of their contract, which is probably not that hard because TSM have fuck all money. So it's really not that hard. But again, like I don't know, like it is his project that, but obviously he probably would want to go to Vitality if he could. So maybe Xtaz is someone that you keep an eye on. Cuban obviously now is a free agent, and like obviously is proven to have a good ability kind of coaching teams. I don't know who the Vitality pick up.
I was going to say Lambert,
It's
but
very
he's on the
tough.
TSM project with Xtaz.
Not Lambert. No.
And that's not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
But I want to see Lambert back on the server personally.
I don't. What the fuck?
No, I don't.
I watched LDLC.
Keep that mouse hung up. Keep that
That
mouse
was a
hung
nice.
up.
That was a nice bait. Yeah, that was
keep
a
it
nice.
right
nice
over
bait.
here. Just keep it in the shelving
Yeah,
unit
yeah,
back
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Like
You can use your mouse. Just use it for demos. Just use it for demos. That's it.
yeah.
Smiths.
No.
No.
Even perhaps
My
even
bait.
wilder.
My
Perhaps even
bait.
Wait,
My
wilder.
bait
why are
for
we
the
looking?
day.
Why are we looking French though? Like they don't have to be French.
I know.
Yeah. But like who
Yeah.
like I was on this thought process when the kind of the rumor
Maybe
came out
Cuban.
yesterday.
I don't know, bro.
That's
I don't know.
why I was
That's
saying
probably a bit of a
Cuban.
jump for him, but yeah, it is quite tough. It is quite tough coaching wise. I don't think that there's really anyone that is available.
Or if they have
Malik,
pulling power.
maybe. Like I don't know.
Oh,
like
Malik on
it's
EG.
tough. Yeah,
He'd
it's
probably
tough.
want
Like
out there.
they would have
Malik
to.
would be
They
a
would
good
have to
one.
buy
call.
out someone. You know, I think
Yeah.
they would have to buy people.
Malik is the nicest
Rather
one I've
than-
heard of so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously,
than
Yeah,
names I've
maybe.
think
Only
of.
like what is his? Is it, it's like assistant coach on EG or something?
His role
It's like
is
he like director of sports or
That's
some
it.
shit like that.
It's like
yeah.
it's like this. It's like some weird shit. Like you don't know what they actually do. Like what Valens what
Yeah,
Valens was.
yeah.
Like director of like esports science or something.
He's like a
ridiculous.
GM kind of.
Yeah.
Sort of, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of.
They do like their wacky titles over there at EG.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like
that's
that's
all I'll say.
It's not a bad one. I don't mind that. Like
I like
Malik.
it.
I feel like at least it's someone you can rely on. Also, he knows the players. Or know Apex pretty well. So, I feel like there's at least something to like there, right? But I can't think of anyone else. Cuban's only free agent like coach that's been around tier 1 that I can think of off the top of my head. Or the other thing I was thinking of was pulling power. Like who could they pull over?
Yeah, right.
Kassad.
Would he
Possible?
Would he want to coach though?
Yes, he
Yeah,
said if
yeah.
he was given the right project, he would coach.
Oh, okay.
It's maybe a bit of a
Alright.
jump for him though.
It's pretty
Honestly,
big.
like
Best
we
team in
all
the
we all
world.
like Kassad. You know, look, I'm a big fan, funny guy. And he was on my podcast at one point. You know, so he's cool for sure. But like, I think definitely after being out of the game for a while, and indeed he took Renegades a little further than they deserved to go. Let's say, but. Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I
a
think going
huge
into
step.
Vitality, yeah, I
It's a
think
risk.
like
No, it's a risk. Yeah, for sure.
major winning
Number 1 team in the
want to get
world.
back to that performance, you know, it is a bit of a jump for him, and maybe he would even be mature enough to realize that actually.
Do you think now we were talking about him earlier, like whether he'd actually want to come back and play?
Mhm.
Would Glaive coach these days? What do you think?
I can see Glaive being a good coach, but I can only really see him working in Danish teams.
Yeah, I think Glaive's in a weird spot to circle back to that. I think because he's on the bench and he's getting a fairly comfortable salary,
Yeah.
and we've talked about family and what he's achieved already and all this kind of stuff. I think he needs a really, really, really good offer to
Okay.
leave Astralis and pique his interest. And I don't know whether he wants to coach just yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Or I feel like they'd have to poach someone from another team. But then I was going through teams and trying to like figure out who they'd poach. So there's one guy who I'm not trying to say he's gonna fix any of the problems, but I just heard a few months ago that he was unhappy and was like leaving or getting kicked or whatever. Was Cater from Fnatic. For a long time, I
Keita,
heard, yeah. I heard he was leaving, right? And I thought that was gonna be the case. But he stuck around. Like the rumor was that he was leaving. You know, or maybe you look towards people who are on like unhappy projects. I guess like DGL and Nip, like because like I mean Nip's a shit show, but like he won't leave Nip, so like he wouldn't,
Yeah, and
wouldn't
it's
leave.
just you need To replace ZONIC, you need one of the heavy hitters, and there's really
Yeah.
only like 3 or 4 other coaches out there that could compete, and even
Yeah, yeah.
that's maybe a bit generous.
And they won't leave, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're just like kind of shit out of luck.
100%. Or they like get like a, you know, they make someone out of nothing in a way. I guess like I wouldn't say it's making them out of nothing, but I guess like
Vitality Nard out here.
Vitality Mahone.
Mahone, bring him back. He's retired. He's out of the broadcast game. Bring him back. Wait, who's what's Vitality's analyst called again? The guy who like still in coaching wise.
Matt?
He was all right.
He didn't do anything.
Gamers A. My boy was vibing. He
Good job, guys. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
That's his whole resume. Is
but
just,
honestly,
you know,
sometimes that's all
100% win rate.
Hey man, sometimes that's all you need, right? Sometimes all you need is like a hey man, good job. Like you guys are like the best team in the world right now. Like just keep being the best team in the world. Like
You did it.
like
that's it. Like in the team meetings, you know, man, we're struggling. We lost the last major. We choked out in the finals in Copenhagen. What do we do, bro? Just be the best team in the world again. What are you talking about?
You guys
be the best
just
team.
think
Just,
about
you
it.
already
Just
did it
think
once.
about
You
it.
already did it once. You know what to
think
do.
about it. You guys just be you. What do you mean? Like you just won game as A. Like just do it again.
Only it was that easy.
Just fucking do it again. Zaiwu, you're like generational talent. Just go again, fella. Like what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not that hard. Just play well. But yeah,
Put your crosshair. So listen, guys, if you put your crosshair on like the enemy's heads and then press mouse 1,
just comes with the
that's how
shittest
you win.
advice ever. Like Apex is just like, fuck. But like,
to be fair, no, Apex would be like, you know what? I actually never do that.
Can we just put as a coach, your job is to put Zaiwu in a hyperbolic chamber of perfect air quality.
Yeah,
so he will never fall off again in a big
actually,
event.
I'll have you know that Nero proved that was actually inconclusive and wrong. So
actually,
yeah, Nero proved that to be, to lack of a better term, bullshit. So, but probably short term, Matt actually does have to coach, realistically speaking, because they're not going to get one in super early. This is a free agent, and again, fuck knows, right? So we're going in circles here. Like who is it? But yeah, that is basically probably the last of the news. We can finish things off with what we're up to over the next, I don't know, like month. I don't know. We're kind of pumping these out willy nilly. We'll probably get one more done before Christmas. That's probably about it. So, like, let's not lie here, fellas. Skriv, you can kickstart us, fellas. What have you got coming up over basically the next month and a bit? What's the tail end of the year looking like for you?
A few qualifiers booked on at the moment for Young Copping. I think I just got another one through the other day as well, but that's not until November. So yeah, maybe hold off on sort of announcing what that'll be. But yeah, pretty usual stuff. ECL kicking off again, right? ECL's always on the docket. Usually like a month to 6 weeks between seasons, so we get into it pretty quickly. But this one, there's obviously been a pretty large gap. So yeah, getting back into that. That's about it, really. To be honest, that's about all I got booked on at the moment. I think there's a few things in the pipeline, but nothing really confirmed at this stage. So you know, and then just living and loving life, man.
We love it. All right, Trav, what have you got?
Yeah, I've probably gonna do some more personal streams and stuff, especially CS2 being out. I think it's a good idea to sort of hop on the hype train with that. Tomorrow, as we call this, I'm gonna stream Sinners vs Sprout for ECL. It's the first EU ECL day tomorrow. For EU, obviously ESL will broadcast 2 matches. But the other ones are open to like community broadcasters. So I'm going to jump on Sinners vs Sprout. I think my first ECL cast on CS2 officially will be for Asia next week. So that'll be my official CS2 casting debut, I think, for ECL Asia. I think I'm doing a North American one with JRT as well, because JRT dropped my name in, I think, as Daft Mike wasn't available for some reason. So yeah, I've got 2 of those. Got a couple of more exciting things to come, which I will not announce yet. End of October and end of November, because I want to keep that a secret because it's very fun and exciting. I'll probably be trying to play some more tennis because I'm really enjoying it. And as Skriv says, stay active, keep healthy, and enjoy things.
Vibes.
There you go.
Paladin, what you got for us? You're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you guys. No, I generally have pretty similar things to Travis. Is that I've young cupping qualifiers for North America coming up soon next week. So looking forward to that as usual. Always fun to watch the North American scene continue to develop. Like it feels like we're slowly and steadily getting back to winning ways, at least in terms of competition. So
Extra
that's
Salts are coming
exciting.
back.
Yeah, Extra
Oh,
Salt's
yeah.
coming back. I think Gaming Gladiators also
Yes.
pitched that they were coming back as
Yeah,
well.
there's a rumor
So
they're picking up a team. I can't remember who it was. I saw it
yeah,
yesterday.
things are looking up for North America. So that's always exciting. Yeah, I think yeah, there's a couple things happening towards the end of the month, which are super exciting. Gonna hold off on that. We have a lot of content ideas in the pipeline between Neo and I, so that's super exciting. And yeah, Fragadelphia is still a bit away. I don't know if we're gonna have another episode before then, but Fragadelphia is back, and
It's
I'm
back,
excited to
baby.
go to that because
What are the
yeah,
dates?
December 1st
We'll probably
to
get one in.
3rd,
Ooh,
something like
actually,
that.
maybe
Yeah,
not. Maybe not. Who knows?
we'll find the way not to.
Oh yeah,
That's
100%.
that's just how
How we
on
are.
top of things we are. Yeah, yeah.
um,
But yeah, other than that, not really much going on. I think it's a very odd time in the Counter Strike sphere right now,
it
where
is.
for me at least, I rely a lot on demo watching. So if I can't demo watch, then I feel like a fish out of water. So
Mhm.
hopefully we get that up and running. As Sydney comes around, we get that first influx of CS2 in the books, and I think that's when everything will just get right back into it, where we can just pump out content, and that's what it's all about.
100%.
This needs
100%.
to be wild.
Can I also say as well? I just checked. It's been over a year since we've been doing Tin Our Talent. Our first
Hey,
episode
cool.
was
That is mad to think,
August.
isn't it?
August was our first
Yeah.
one last year, so we've been doing
What
this for
episode
over a
number
year.
will this be? 20-ish?
14.
14. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, 14.
Unlucky. I rounded it up a bit too much.
1 year, 14 episodes. What are we doing, guys?
Get more guests. We need to get more guests. Neo,
It's actually
use your
wild.
Paladin. Use your pulling power and get some god tier guests on. Come on,
Yeah. Sorry,
Just-
Skriv.
Oh, yeah.
get it-
Fuck off.
get it done. No. That's not what I meant. What the hell? Don't put words into my mouth.
The Skriv guy.
Skriv is a
This
god
guy.
tier guest.
Fuck this dude,
Goodness
man.
sake.
Fuck this guy.
Ah.
Yeah, over a year, which is pretty cool. I'm actually like kind of surprised with that. Fair play. So
That's cool.
yeah, been doing it for like a year and a couple months now. August, like quite towards the middle of August. But yeah, for me, similar things. ECL coming up, Asia and EU, which should be really fun. Also got Impact as well. Got a couple more Impacts coming up. I basically primarily do South America, which is always kind of fun because it's quite wild. Also, it's all on CS2 now as of like literally today. So it's pretty fun. Impact, I kind of do it with like a variety of people, but mainly Hedra or Donna. What else? Epic LAN. I'm going to Epic LAN. I'm playing. I've got a team. It's on CS2
Hell yeah.
as well, which should be fun. So heading out
Who
to
you with?
IM Kettering. It's me, my housemate called Alex, and then it's O Tyler the Go.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, O Tyler, just I love that dude. Zola as well, the commentator, and then Zola's mate called Blank, who I don't know who Blank is. But we're not gonna win any games. It's just we're gonna be there for the vibes. It's gonna be
Not with
fun
that attitude.
stuff. Not with our team rating.
I love Tyler though. Nicest guy ever.
Yeah, he's fun. He's
Great
cool
guy.
as fuck. Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be super chill. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be really fun. And then yeah, like literally like yesterday as well. This is like well in the future, but I've been like booking all my stuff. So I like booked like flights and stuff for Copenhagen and getting ready for all of that, which has been pretty cool. So it's been like kind of preparing for towards next year. There really
You
isn't.
there, honey.
Yeah. There really isn't gonna be like the tail end is pretty quiet. So this is where like we do stuff like the content and like just have a bit of fun. Like
Sure.
I've got like nearly 100 hours in the last 2 weeks in CS2. Like I've been put a shift in. I'm like pushing towards a purple rank. I'm like nearly like top 1%. So I've been grafting. Me and the boys putting in games. So I've been playing a lot of CS2. It's really fun. It's like very different. So it's quite fun to get used to that. But yeah, got some other stuff coming up in the pipeline, which probably we'll talk about next episode at some point. But yeah, that's about it basically. Oh, I've also been like playing a lot of golf. I'm like just dog shit at golf. I played Top Golf once, and then I was like, this is fun. And then I realized there's a driving range, like a full 18 hole course, but I'm not doing that because like I'm gonna be lost. There's a driving range down the road for me. It's £9 for 100 balls, which is so cheap. So I just go down there every now and again.
Invite me.
Yeah.
I need an excuse to use my clubs. I've
Yeah,
got clubs in a garage just collecting dust.
I literally went-
I need to use them.
I went yesterday. I just walked over there because it's like less than a 20-minute walk. I just walked over and was like, hey, like, can I just use a driving range? And they're like, yeah, like, here's some clubs, here's the balls, £9. I was like, sick. Like, this is great. They just smash some balls around. It's great. Yeah. So I mean, I've been doing that, and yeah, I'm actually in the process of moving within the next month. So probably like more IRL stuff. Probably the next episode we do, I will be in a whole new setup. I'm moving in like less than a month. So we will see. We'll see. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I guess also like No Blast Showdown. Rip, rest in peace. But yeah, GG. You know, what can you do? What can you do? But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Skriv, thank you for joining us, brother. It's been a pleasure to have you on. To have you
Thanks.
I love Harvey Rogers.
Why you doxing me like that?
Okay. Where's your Wikipedia profile? It's all there.
Dropping the government online. Damn. The ops are coming. Skriv, thank you very much for joining us, brother. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you everyone at home for watching and all the rest. And if you're watching this on Twitch, appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube as well, we also stream these before we release them, like the day before. So go and look on Twitch. Go and follow everybody. You can see their apps on the screen right now. They're also going to be down below if you're watching this on YouTube in the description. Go and follow them. All the rest. And yeah, until next time, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We will see you all very soon. Take care.
Bye.